All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome to our seventh episode of 6 on 6. It's called Back to Basics because it's just Troy and I. As you can see from your screen, we don't have a guest today. The original conception of 6 on 6 didn't actually involve us having a lot of guests, but then I think there was a demand and I guess draw for it. Then people liked it. So, how have you enjoyed it so far? It's not really your thing, right? Podcasting?
Not really. I mean, in general, like the content creation is not my thing, I would say.
Right.
I just compete. That's it. But I mean, I'm enjoying it. I like talking about the game. That's the big thing.
Mhm.
I mean, anyone that like goes to events and knows me in that sense, or like the few times I do stream, I enjoy talking about the game. So I mean, I think that was the main reason why we wanted to do this, or at least I wanted to do this. You wanted to do it, I think, for other reasons as well. But the main reason is like I like having the platform to talk about the game, and I like having the discussions with other people that might see the game in other similar ways or even different ways that are also like at a high level though. And it's interesting to me for me to learn or compare and all that. But yeah, I've been liking it so far. We've had some good guests, some really good guests. I think I like that aspect of just bringing on so many different guests and in the future as well. Obviously, we plan to bring on a lot more. Um, just kind of giving a lot more people a chance to kind of say their piece and like contribute their thoughts on things in the scene and just the game in general. But yeah, I don't know how have you enjoyed it. Like, I think, I mean, we've had a good time all across the board. I know you've liked it as well. But
I had a great time. I
yeah,
enjoyed a lot, but I mean, I have no. I know you're the same, but you do it in a different way. I have no problem talking.
hmm
You know, I know you don't have a problem talking either.
no, on some things I am quiet about, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we had some good episodes so far. The coaches one really stood out to me. I've gone back and I've rewatched the easily one, and I've gone back and rewatched the magnet one. I went back and I got through a little bit of the goddess one.
hmm
Um, but it's evident that we are getting, I think, more comfortable in this regard.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think it's made me better at is being more concise. Um, I tend to prioritize the longer, rambling, contextualize everything instead of just letting the question speak for itself and then let the guest do the talking. So,
hmm
but no, I've enjoyed it a lot, and I think it's the reception's been really good. I feel in terms of the questions that I've been asking and all that jazz, I feel much more comfortable doing that. And if you remember back at SI this year, Ubisoft actually, Stuart Ewan in particular, who is just a heavenly individual. He came up to me and he said, "I'm putting together some side content where we want to tell the story of the only four." Four of the remaining people that have made the transition from Xbox to
hmm
console. And obviously it was Skies, Laxing, Bosco, and Dizzle. And I remember rewatching some of the interviews, and I was like, God damn, I could have ended that question half of the way through, and it would have been exactly the same.
hmm
And I think that's one thing that I've been getting better at, is just trying to realize when to drop a question and when to stop talking.
Interesting.
All right, what do you?
Oh, I always thought you could learn when to shut up.
All right, well, the same applies to you. So
This is true.
we
But yeah,
uh you
I
get us together with a couple beers.
we can ramble. We
The
can
chatter
ramble.
does not stop at that
No,
point. So,
no.
um,
Yeah, I've been learning as well, but like I've been telling you about this. I don't think the stream knows as much. I mean, I you guys can imagine I'm very focused on Pro League right now, so for me, I don't prepare as much as I probably could, and like I do think I could be more well prepared and get better in some aspects. So bear with me, guys, on the cast. I know I can get better as far as like contributing more to the hosting side and stuff like that, and just being more prepared. But it is something difficult for me to do right now. I'm very focused outside the game. It's right now it's like practice, and then when I'm outside of practice, it's either I need time to decompress or I'm sitting there like thinking about the game or doing something for it. So very focused. But I know when I'm here, I can contribute to the conversation discussion. So I'm happy with that. But yeah.
Yeah, there was some knocks that you weren't acting as like a host and you were acting more like just a permanent guest, and I think that that's fine. Like, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, we're both yin and yang when it comes to hosting duties, but I don't think it's needed, right? Like,
No, I don't think so either. And I
yeah,
do think that naturally, in terms of personality, like it hosting is more your thing than mine for sure.
yeah,
And like leading the conversation in that sense. Um,
it's because I'm so full of
but
myself.
yeah, that's it.
That's the one.
Hmm.
No, I've aside from my own personal take on this, we'd been discussing for quite a while, and anybody that's followed you or I or have listened in the past when we've talked about this, we've discussed at length about how we wanted to do something along these lines, and I think it wasn't so much for us. Obviously, I do think it's helped us see a different perspective, and I think it's from the players, and it's helped us tell the story of other players. And for me in particular, I think it's made me a better interviewer. I think it's made me a better host, and it's kind of helped me branch out into an area that I wasn't the most experienced in before.
Hmm.
But I think more than anything, the service that the podcast provides to the public, I think, of Rainbow Six is what is to me most important.
Yeah.
Getting players on to tell their side of the story at a level that you haven't heard before. I'll always reference episode 2. We made Fabian cry. I mean, when would that happen anywhere else? And then it's like we got 4 of the sharpest minds in the history of Rainbow Six coaching on, and they talked about things and they brought perspective that never ever enters the public conversation because the coaches don't really do much media. So, I think I would hope, rather, I don't think this, I would hope that the people who are watching take the messages that we're giving and then hopefully spread them, and then the players are given a much larger platform. And as you pointed out, we've got some good guests coming up. And I figure we should be like fully transparent where we have a cycle that we have planned, and obviously if dates conflict, then we have to kind of change that. But in a perfect world, we do a 6-episode cycle. So if you're watching, whether it be on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple or watching it live on Twitch right now, which, by the way, this is time for the shameless plug. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
Hmm.
It really helps us out. And if you're on Spotify or Apple, appreciated if you follow the podcast. And if you're on Twitch, just do the same. It's cool. If you don't want to, whatever. But I mean, it really helps. We kind of want to do a 6-episode cycle where the first episode of every cycle, so it'd be episode 1, episode 7, episode 13, would be where it's just Troy and I, and we kind of hit the reset button. And then over the next 2 or 3 episodes, we bring in guests from outside regions. So we brought in Fabian from EU, we brought in Magnet from APAC, we brought in Easily from NA. We tried to get some Brazilian players on, but unfortunately there isn't a huge pool of Brazilian players who speak English, I think, well enough, nor are comfortable enough to come on here. And that's the thing, is it's like, we both know there's a couple of Brazilian players that are definitely well versed enough in English to come on and have this conversation, but they don't feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
So we got a couple guests lined up over the next couple weeks. The problem is that the major, unless something goes terribly awry or gets canceled outright, which to the best of our knowledge, I haven't heard, safe presumption is going to happen sometime in August. Full transparency, I don't know when it is. So, I mean, I don't know if it's been settled on and they just haven't told us or not. But I'm assuming that we're not going to be able to do 6 episodes between now and when the major starts, just based on how the timeline works. If we do, great. But general idea is maybe episodes, 2, 3, and 4 of the cycle, which would be the next episode and onward, would be guests. And then we could do like either a content creator or a personality, which is the role that Goddess did technically as a former pro, but now she works for the Sonics and she's a content creator. And then our final episode will be a 6-on-6-on-6. And ideally, the one that we would do would be a pre-major roundtable if possible.
Yes, that'd be ideal. That's one I'm looking, like, those are the ones I look forward to the most. And like, I guess when we were talking about like when we first made the podcast or like the idea of it, like that is the idea I had in mind, where like it's just a lot of discussion of people throwing around ideas and opinions and all the takes on how teams are looking, the meta's looking, and all that. I think it'll be really interesting. I think people will love it. I don't think we've quite had it yet. Like the coaches one was close, but it's not like there hasn't been enough going on in terms of like actual gameplay and competition to have that kind of discussion I'm talking about. And I think people will love it when that does come up, because I love that stuff. Like
Yeah.
when pros from every region like giving their how things are going in that region, how teams are looking in that region, what the strongest maps are from that region or for the certain teams, and what we can expect at the major. Like I think that stuff's really interesting. Obviously not everyone always can contribute all those. Like if you have to play someone, you're not going to say you're not going to tell everyone what their best and worst maps are, but maybe somebody that isn't competing might say that. Yeah, I think it can be really interesting.
Yeah. And the one knock that I saw for the coaches episode was they're like, oh, it didn't really feel like a conversation. Well, I don't know if you've ever met those coaches, but like they're not the kind of guys who are going to pick up and run with a conversation themselves. I mean, most coaches aren't like that. Most coaches are quite quiet. They stay in the background. They don't really talk that much. They shy away from social media. Dizzle rarely tweets. Shas virtually never tweets. Like these are two people who want their teams to do the talking, not themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some comments on the YouTube video that, and on Discord as well. And obviously there's, for those of you that are watching, I just put in the Twitch chat right now. I forgot to add this on the YouTube video, but I'll add it for the episode that comes out tomorrow, because this will be up on Spotify and Apple tonight. This will be on YouTube tomorrow. There is a show feedback category that we want. If you think that we're being too strict on time, or if you think we're being too loose on time, or we're letting the discussions ramble, etc., we want that feedback. Obviously, frame it in a way that isn't offensive, but we want that feedback because it's crucial for getting the show to a better place. Ultimately, you, the audience, need to get the most enjoyment out of this. We are doing this mostly for the audience, not for ourselves. So if you're not liking the content we're producing, then obviously something is wrong. And we'll need to make some changes there. There's also a questions for us section. And I figure that since it's just you and I, we can actually take like maybe an hour or 45 minutes or something and answer just a whole slew of questions, because they've been adding up for quite a while. We haven't really gotten into them.
No,
but
I think that like these episodes are like an ideal time for that, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll go through, and there's a questions for us category. I'll post it more in here. I'll just spam the link right now for everybody that's listening. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing with the coaches was there was a lot of insight that was dropped. It was unfortunate that it was only 3 hours. Already we went well over both yours and Pojo's allotted time. So, I mean, that was whoops, but, at least things got accomplished. And like I said, and like you said, the problem that I found with the coaches was that because they're more reserved, they're not going to take up a conversation and run with it. But if we get a bunch of dickheads from each of the regions and each of the teams on here for the pre-major, and they all just start yelling at each other, I mean, great.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what we want. It's the one thing that I love about Valley's on the Flank is you get a bunch of hothead personalities on there, and they all just start being boisterous, and it's great. It's great content. And I think that we can definitely do the same thing there. And the idea is that as much as humanly possible, both APAC and LATAM do have a bit of a deficiency with a different amount of people who are comfortable enough speaking English. So that's something that we'd have to look at. But I do want to get somebody on from every single region every 6th episode for 6-on-6-on-6, where we have that breakdown. So it just depends on when the major is, and it depends on what teams do and don't make it. But I don't think we're going to have a problem finding shortages of people to come on and talk.
No, we'll be able to find people for sure.
Yeah.
There might Latin America might be the only region that might have difficulties, but I think we'd be fine.
So Twister speaks English well enough. Mav speaks English well enough. Cameraman speaks English well enough. Bob from NIP speaks English well enough, but he's a manager. I don't know how much his understanding of the game is deep enough to get on here.
I'm not sure either.
I actually reached out to a couple people in Mav. Ritalia and Meligeni, by the way, could come on. The problem is that we go live the same time as BR6. So we'd have to do a different time if we wanted to get them on, or it would have to be a day or a match that they're not casting, or if they're not casting, etc. There's just so much fucking Rainbow Six Siege, dude. It's honestly every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, the Rainbow Six channel's not live. Oh, okay.
Yep.
And I honestly think that can kind of talk about, and we can actually transition into the first subject. We can talk about the various leagues, the way that they're working, the caster drama that flared up, and then talk about how viewership has actually been down. And my suspicion is that it's just because there's so much. You know, instead of there being 6 shows a week and people would tune in, now there's like literally dozens. We have like quadrupled the amount of hours that is being broadcasted. And yeah, peak viewership is going down in comparison to where it was before on Twitch, at least. It's not down by that much, but it is definitely not where it was last time. I wonder how much of that is just because people are picking and choosing now instead of trying to watch all of it.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the case. I mean, there's so many games. It is hard to watch all of them. It's even hard for me. Like, I can't watch some of the regions. Like, I don't watch all of the Latin America games. I pick and choose those. Like, I'll pick the best teams and watch them. Europe, I'll watch almost all of them. Sometimes might be like one that I won't watch just because it's like, if it's too close to my like practice time, I won't watch it. If it's not a good matchup. If it is a good matchup, I make sure to watch it afterwards. Just depends. But I think I've watched just about all the EU matches. And then APAC, I can't watch APAC. I mean, it's hard for me. It's too early for me. Like
for you in particular, right?
Yeah. No, but the time zone is bad for me to watch APAC. I think I watched like one of the very first ones. What did Fnatic play Giants yet? I think I.
Yeah, they played They played Giants.
Wasn't that like
second
one of the
week?
first matches?
Yeah, it was like first or second week, I think.
I think.
Yeah.
But that's all I've watched. But yeah, I do think that's part of it. I also think the format is a big part. Like, I'm not sure on the numbers. So like, what's getting the highest numbers? Like, what's gotten the highest numbers so far? Has it been NA?
I think it's EU right now. I think I mean, the first play day of EU, the G2 game that I watched was like 23,000, I want to say, on Twitch alone. And there's a lot of people who also forget that, we stream on YouTube, which usually pulls respectable viewership. The YouTube channel gets more viewers on its own than NA and EU Pro League used to get back in like season 7, season 8. And then we also have Twitch on top of that. And then the other thing for Europe is that there's like a dozen different language broadcasts for Europe, you know, so you have to add those numbers in as well. I think somebody did the math on it on the subreddit. It was like, if they added all of them up for one of the EU broadcasts, it was at like 31,000 or something like that, which is good. That's good, honestly. I mean, it's not terrible for a game like ours. It's good.
No, it's not bad.
So, but apparently there's 22,000 people watching Liquid versus Nip on the BR stream, which is pretty standard numbers, honestly, for them. Liquid always pulls, Liquid always pulls great viewership. So, yeah, I think for NA, I think our peak viewership, it's always TSM's matches.
TSM,
yeah, and it's usually, I think it was like 18K that I saw. But you have to remember that I remember talking to ESL about this way back in the day. The most viewed region, period, is Europe. NA wasn't that far behind, but NA, very few of that was live hours watched. Yes. Because NA is at a time when, depending on where you are, Brazil isn't watching it, APAC can't really be watching it, and Europe might be watching it, but it's like 3 a.m.
Well, so, even for some of the NA matches, like East Coast NA isn't even watching.
Yeah.
Like the last match of the night, a lot of the time, if you're on the East Coast, people are asleep. They are.
Dude, that Sonic's matchup 2 weeks ago, I want to say like Monday or Wednesday or whatever, it started at like 11:20 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. There's a reason why Kix and I are casting the first match every single day, and it's just because even though NA actually starts earlier, NA used to start at 8 p.m. Eastern. Now it starts at 6 p.m. Eastern. But it's like, the problem is that with how long the matches have been going, and because they're best of threes, and because there's overtime, and the desk segments have really added a lot of time.
Yes, that is the biggest part. I've noticed.
Yeah, the desk segments are like an extra 10 minutes between each map, you know, whereas
Mhm.
before with ESL Pro League, it was we come in, we do the preamble. You know, when it would be Kix and I, we would go through, you know, the top operators and blah, blah, blah. And that's just bullshit that we hated doing. So we'd just go through it as quickly as we could, right? Like, oh, we need to talk about the most operators that are played. Oh, we need to talk about the most maps that were played and the most maps that were banned, but we're not going to talk about them in any context with teams. We're just going to throw them up on your screen. We tried to push for so long for that to be like content that was shown during the break that it just like kind of cycled through them. And then we were told like, no, they need to be addressed. So whatever. I thought it was shit. I hated doing that. And then but our goal was to see how quickly we could get into the game. That was always our goal. Was we wanted to see how much time we could shave off to get ready and to go into the game. And then it's like the game would end, come back to us. Wow, that was awesome. Super cool. Okay, we're going to a break. 5-minute break. Come back immediately into the game. Like super quick every time. But now the problem is that I think there's a bit too much.
And it's a lot.
It is a lot. And don't get me wrong. I think that's fine. For a LAN event, you need time between the matches as well for teams to set up, right? But online, I don't think the desk segments need to be that long. And this is feedback that I have pushed to various people saying that I get that we want to have a desk segment. I get that we have sponsors. I get that we have to go to ads and all that jazz, but like we can definitely streamline this and speed it up because there is a lot of downtime and people have complained.
I agree. It's different on LAN because we don't notice it on LAN, right? When we get on LAN, like we set up, sometimes you'll notice it if it's delayed, but that's the only time it's like that is if there's like an issue like on your team's PC, the other team, like there's some sort of tech issue. If it's like delayed noticeably long, usually like it's pretty quick at LAN. Like you set up, you can like warm up a little bit, you get into the lobby, and then like a couple minutes later they start.
Yeah.
Online though, like just this season online, we've noticed like we've been sitting in the lobby, like they get us in the lobby, and then they're going through like a pre-show thing, and like we're sitting in the lobby for like 15, 20 minutes, and we're like
way too long.
We're sitting there like, and we have to be in there too.
Yeah,
we literally joke, we're like they're fucking icing us, like we can't get warmed up, like we have to sit in the lobby and just do nothing for 20 minutes. So I do think it could be, especially online, it could be more streamlined for sure.
And I mean, I get it. I get that they have stuff that they want to do. I get that they have like I know there are metrics, and I'd heard. The thing is that like when I'm a fly on the wall and I hear like rumors going through like ESL, obviously whenever I was in the ESL office, like you'd overhear them talking, right, about things. And it's like we would be CC'd in certain emails and, you know, I kind of poke through it. But there are metrics that they want or were wanted at one point, I know, in regards to like time produced. Like they wanted every broadcast to hit like a certain time. And sometimes if we had a quick match, it meant that we fell short of what was wanted and what was needed. I don't know if that's for sponsors. I don't know if that's an internal thing. I have no idea. And also it's worth noting that this has never been actually shown to be true. It's just something that I overheard, like literally in the lunchroom. So it's one of those lunchroom water cooler style. Oh, I was making a coffee and heard this. But if that's true, it's like, I can understand it. And every broadcast has that. Every single broadcast, every single set of sponsors is going to want a return, and they're going to be guaranteed a certain amount of time. They're going to be, you know, a certain amount of commercials, you know, how many times we say their name. That's standard shit. Like that's not sharing secrets or anything. That's just how the advertising world works. Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that there are workarounds where you can keep the desk segments to a pre-show, for example. Like that's the biggest one for me, you know, like, when we're doing live events, we have like the 20 to 30 minute pre-show, and it gets a lot of that frou-frou out of the way so that you can just kind of smash into it when it's ready. And I think like that could be ideal. Using the breaks and then not running ads has always been very confusing for me. You know, like I remember we had this conversation with ESL. This was when Ubisoft dramatically expanded the amount of advertising we used to do, because, you know, we always used to do the savage on the outside, you know, stylish on the outside, savage on the inside, the hilarious one. That was great. But then we'd also do PayPal, and that was it though. We'd be like into the game. So there's 2 ads, super quick, maybe like 40 seconds. But it actually got to the point where the ad break after the countdown was done was almost as long as the 5-minute timer. Because you'd have like the Capital Elite, or you'd have the Ella Elite, or whatever elite it was at the time. You'd then have the Pro League sets that you'd go through all 4 of them. You'd then go through your ads, and then you'd go into the break, or then you'd go into the whatever role, and then go straight into us live. And it's like, okay, but why don't you show those as part of the break? Like, nobody wants to look at the standings for 5 to 7 minutes while the same music plays over top. Like, put those in and then just put a timer on the bottom, and then just have the ads in the break. But then it was brought up to me by somebody at ESL at one point, where it's like, yeah, but then they don't like it because technically, like, everybody's gone and, you know, they're not coming back for it, so nobody's watching it. And it's like, I hate to break it to you, but nobody's fucking watching those ads to begin with. Like, nobody's coming back, and they're like, oh, gotta be in time for the fluffy kittens ad, you know? So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't get it. This is me more just complaining about the old structure. And this is me also that I hate ads. I understand they pay the bills, but it's like, I don't want them. I just want to get into the action. This is also me, for those that are listening. This isn't me talking about the current production. This was me talking about Pro League back with ESL. I will say, though, that I think they could cut down on some of it, and I think they could streamline it for what we're doing right now. I will also tell you that EUL has way greater downtime than NA does. And I'm very thankful that we don't, because it's like they'll start talking and then it'll be like a timer in the bottom and it will just say something along the lines of like, next match 9 minutes. And I'm just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I can't deal with it.
No, it's a struggle. I don't like waiting around for matches, but yeah, in some cases you can't do anything about it. It is what it is.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is that when we get to LAN in Vegas, we're actually physically on location, whenever America decides to actually treat a global pandemic with any level of severity.
That's like the biggest. It's such a bummer. Like, it's being handled so fucking poorly here by everyone. Yes, wear a fucking mask. It's being handled so fucking poorly here, and then like, and we're the only ones that are supposed to have. Okay, well, BR6 is supposed to be land as well, but like. And I guess but like between like us and EU, like we're the one that's supposed to be on land, and we're just like, we're not fucking wearing masks. Like,
yeah, dude, I went to Whole Foods yesterday because in Toronto it's been mandatory for I think like 5 days or 6 days or something like that now, that you need to wear a mask indoors. I went to Starbucks because I was all out of coffee. I just went to go pick something up, and these like 2 young gals got turned away at the door, and they looked so confused. They walked in and they're like, do you have a mask? They're like, no. And they're like, you gotta leave. But I mean, you're going to have those fucking dickheads who don't have a health concern, but then they're going to be like, I have a health concern and you can't ask me about it. And it's like, why do you have to do this? Like, I have friends with asthma, you know, like, and they wear masks. Just wear a fucking mask. It's not tyranny. You're being a shithead. Anyway. This is a conversation for another day, and I don't really want to get into it because it makes me my eyes just like black out with rage for people who don't understand how this shit works. But it's when we do get to LAN, which was the original point, I suspect that the idea behind going to LAN was that we could pump out tons of extra content that would fill a lot of this time and maybe make up for how long the desk segments are. Because like, yeah, granted, after a map, you know as well as I know that you can do a VOD breakdown of a single map, and you can pull it out to an hour of you breaking everything down.
Yeah.
But that's not the purpose of an analyst desk. And a lot of people, especially like a lot of the neophytes when it comes to esports, don't understand that analyst desks aren't actually really supposed to analyze anything. They're supposed to be entertaining, and they're basically glorified bathroom breaks in every traditional sport. Like, everybody knows that you're there to watch the live action, and everybody knows that when the live action is done, whether it's a desk or a musical performance, etc., for the most part, you're going to the bathroom or you're getting something to drink or eat. Like, everybody gets that. So the purpose of the analyst desk is like, yeah, sure, to a certain extent, they're going to break down what's happening, and there will be some, you know, insightful commentary, but overall, it's supposed to be light fluff, hot takes, comedy, props, etc. Like, that's just what it is, you know? You think people are watching Coach's Corner and they're listening to Don Cherry and they're actually getting any semblance of intelligence from that man? No, that guy literally just word vomits everywhere. And then people find it entertaining, so they watch it, you know? Like, and that's the whole purpose. So unfortunately, there's a lifespan for that, and it tends to be no more than like 5 minutes. So I feel like anything longer than that for the desk loses people's attention, and I think it does drag the games out a little bit long.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Something I was going to add, by the way, though, you were talking about like just the viewership in general.
Yeah.
I think one everything going on at the same time, obviously, like we mentioned, but I do think if EU, if they were best of three and no OT like NA, like it would get even more viewership. Like the series in NA are, I mean, you seen other regions games? How many? Have you seen
Uh,
too many of them?
I've watched all of EUL. I
Hmm.
think there was one day where I didn't because I was running an errand, because the problem with EUL is that I usually miss the last two matches because we go into rehearsals, right?
Hmm.
Because EUL is like literally running right up against NA
Yeah.
now. Like the
Yeah.
last match is finishing and then we're just going straight to a timer for NA. There
Yeah.
is no breather.
Yeah.
So I usually miss the last two matches of EUL. I've
Okay.
watched a couple APAC when I can. If I get up early enough, I can usually catch like the last match or two of APAC, but that's about it. And I've watched zero of LATAM and BR6 because they're not on days that work for my schedule at all. So I have to go back and rewatch the VODs.
So what I was gonna say is, I feel like the NAL matches are just by far the most entertaining, and I
There,
think it's
I
just
would agree.
purely,
I would agree.
it's just, I mean, I think the teams are really good right now in NA. I think that's a big part of it, but also it's just like the best of three with overtime. Like you, it just can't compare. It can't.
Yeah.
Like ties in EU are some of like the most boring matchups, but if you literally add overtime, it becomes one of the most entertaining. Right? It's as simple as that.
I think there was a great actual discussion that happened from somebody who was involved in Riot. I'm pretty sure he's involved in LCS. He might be with an org. I can't remember. He had a really good tweet stream the other day where he said, there is no better format. If we're talking competitive integrity, is best of three better than best of one? Of course. But,
Hmm.
but best of five is better than best of three. And if we really want to, a best of seven is technically even better than that. Like the more matches you play, the better team is always going to win. A
Yeah.
best of one is a bit of a crapshoot. Anybody can win. And for us, I think the big problem with best of ones is that, unlike a lot of other games, like MOBAs, for example, if it's Dota or if it's League, a best of one, the map is not really that important. Obviously, the champions that you ban and the champions that you pick are going to be hugely impactful.
Hmm.
And one or two early mistakes could end up being the entire series, end up being the entire map, etc. Our game does not
Hmm.
play out like a MOBA.
Yeah.
So if it goes to a map that's relatively even between the two teams, and then there's no real flashiness, and both teams are like kind of like meh, and then they draw, I think for most viewers, they'd see that as a waste of time.
Yeah.
Whereas in a MOBA, you can't draw first. So no matter
Yes.
what, there's going to be a conclusion. And while I agree that draws are boring from a viewership standpoint, I don't think that draws are uncompetitive. I think that if through 12 rounds, if on a very even map, no team is better after 12 rounds, give them a point each and then move the fuck on. Because at that point, I don't necessarily want to see a conclusion to an otherwise unexciting match. I just want to get to the next match and hope that it's better. Um, the
A lot of
problem,
the time, though, they are exciting, and it's the fact that it ends with no like actual closure. Like
that's true.
I think that's what makes them so unexciting all the time. Because like part of the reason why the NA matches are so exciting, they're like going to overtime every fucking map. Like disrupt games are so fun to watch
Yeah.
because they're going three maps every series, overtime on like half the fucking maps. It's crazy.
The
So
the problem
I
for
I mean
me is that just to go against my own statement is that there were a number of matches over the last we had 3 seasons of draws. I think season 9, 10, and 11 all had draws, if I remember correctly. Um, there were so many matches where it would be like 5-2, and then a team would storm back, and then the end scoreline would be 6-6, and you're like, this isn't satisfying. This is not what I wanted. Or there have been matches where I remember there was only like one or two of them where it would be 6-1, and the team would come back and it would end up being a draw. And it's like, it's like I just want to see somebody win, man.
yes, man.
And also on top of that, it gets to a point where there are certain matches where I want OT because I want to see more of these teams playing. And that's very correct what you said about Disrupt. I couldn't imagine the heart palpitations that Disrupt fans are having watching them play because you even when you're winning, you don't feel like you're winning, and when you're losing, you feel like at any moment you can come back. And they've been really exciting to watch, and you want to see more of it. Right now, imagine disrupting best of ones, like you said, with draws. Totally different ball game. So
I think also an aspect of overtime. I don't think probably everyone thinks of it this way. I do because like I play in the series all the time. But when you play a map during regulation, by the time regulation's over, if you tie 6-6 in regulation, by the end of that, both teams have probably shown like their whole playbook on the map or most of it.
mhm.
At least everything that's like really good and competitive. They might have like a cheesy thing that's very situational
On
that
a
they can't,
different map, like a different site or something.
or with certain bands, like some things that they just can't pull out possibly, right?
Right.
Overtime is like it always showcases who throughout that match like figured their shit out. Like they adapted to what the other team is doing, right? Like you'll go into overtime, the other team will play their best site, and you have to have it figured out on attack, or you have to go to a new site on defense, and you have to show something different to catch the attackers off guard. Like
Right.
I think I don't know. I find it so interesting, and I think it really showcases the better team in overtime. Obviously, there's some cases where like maps are very side, the sides aren't very balanced, and like you get two defense on.
Old clubhouse when you could
Yeah,
only defend church downstairs, and then bar stock was your second.
yeah, there are some cases like that, and that's why it is tough to have. I mean, I've seen a lot of arguments about having overtime in best of ones, and I do still think it's good. Like I still think it should happen because it's a shitty fucking feeling tying. Like I think I've heard like you win in overtime, you get 2 points. You lose in overtime, you get one.
Yep.
Like
We
I think
suggest that, and I think the coach has one.
I think that's a good idea. Um, but one of the shitty things about best of one OT is like you might just get you might win the coin flip and you might get defense OT on fucking Oregon or something.
Which strangely is a really defender-sided map at the moment.
It depends on the region. Apparently, it's attacker side in the EU.
Which
NA
in
super
NA
defender side.
stats-wise, it is the most defender-sided map right now out of all the maps
Fucking
in NA.
crazy defenses. Yeah, it's crazy in NA.
Yeah, listen here,
Anyways,
Mr. Clash on bottom floor.
yeah, we'll touch on all that.
Oh, I know.
But in best of three, you get like you'll get side choice on OT on your own map pick. So like the way it works, I don't know if everyone knows this. When you pick a map in a best of three series, the other team picks their starting side, and then you pick the overtime side, and then vice versa for their map pick. And then currently on the last map, it's a coin flip. But usually, and I'm a big advocate for this, is that usually for the decider map, OT side choice goes to or side choice or OT side choice goes to the team with the better round differential throughout the series, throughout the first two maps.
Yeah, that's how it worked in the qualifiers, and that's how it works on LAN.
And I think that's very balanced. Like it kind of it makes it feel more fair, so that you don't get screwed over by the sides. A lot of the time, though, that late into the game, I will say like the defender sided aspect of like a map will kind of diminish a bit just because you're starting to figure out the other team's strats, like I said. So like if you're adapting, you might be okay. Also, though, if you're adapting on defense or like remaining unpredictable on defense, you could still kind of have the upper hand.
Do you want to take this time to transition into the topic of Oregon? Because I know that it's on the docket. I mean, it's not next up, but that's fine. I think we can be a little malleable with this on the schedule. So,
Yeah.
So you talked about how in NA it's super defender sided, but then in EU it's supposedly attacker sided.
Yes. So I don't understand an EU. I can't comment on it much, right? Like I've seen a couple matches. I haven't even seen all the Oregon matches.
Mhm.
I notice that every time I see it, Cali is being run. Cali's like hit or miss. Like when she's not run that often in NA. Some teams run her on that map, but not every team. And then in EU, I've seen her a lot. So I'm not like necessarily sure what's better, right? Like I'm not saying we're better at Oregon than they are.
Right.
I honestly have no idea. And I don't know why it plays out attacker sided there. I don't. It might be the Cali. maybe she makes it that much easier to attack, and we're fucking clueless over here. But I don't know.
She counters your clash quite well.
But in NA, like Thatcher is always fucking banned. Mav is almost always fucking banned. And then people just play like in the close corners with fucking pump shotguns, and like that's Oregon. It's the pump map, man. I think. Do you remember the
pump map?
Do you,
That's a good way
I
to
think
put it.
the first TSM match they played on Oregon, and like Chala went fucking nuclear,
Yeah.
and I think he dropped like 19 or something.
Just play
And
mute,
I'm
wasn't
Mutant Smoke.
Yeah.
And it was like 16 kills with the pump or something. Like,
I mean, you had the same thing on your team. I mean, we've casted like every
Oh, yeah.
SSG match, right? And it's every single time we cast you guys, especially upstairs, you're just running Mutant Smoke and you're playing these dirty ass angles.
it's the pump map.
Yeah.
It is. Like, we've scrimmed it, and like I think we ended a defense half, and Bosco and Nate, they were the ones playing like Mutant Smoke. Both double digits. Me, Fultz, and Rapier was fucking chilling, doing nothing. Just the pumps eat people up. It's just because there's so many close quarter areas to play. Like on the kids site, like just playing close on the. It's not called Gen anymore. Our team calls it Gen. I don't know what it is in game anymore. But
The old
master
generator.
wall.
It's called games. I've heard people call it games because there's a foosball table in there. I've heard people call it couch.
Mhm.
Couches. I've heard it referred to as.
Okay.
Games is probably the most common one that I get heard because of the foosball table.
Yeah, we call it Gen because it's a nice call out. It's the same fucking thing to us.
Yeah, that's what it used to be called.
Yeah. But like playing close to there's like both sides of the wall there. Like you can play close to the wall, or you can play close to like the statue doorway.
Mhm.
And like both instances, the pump is crazy there.
Yeah.
And then the same goes for like playing by attic, playing close attic with the pump. And then the basement, you just play on the staircases or like the hatches, close with the pump again. I think like the even the freezer side, freezer is like a bit. It's not as good for the pump, but then like because they can push you off the initial staircase, and then once they push you off that though, then you just play like in the hallway, and it's still insane for the pump. Like every spot is insane for the pump, and then Clash is also insane on it because long fucking hallways, just I don't know, just open space, and she just controls it. You slow people down; they can't push. Yeah,
And obviously,
that,
pump just specifies the SAS operators for those that are going to be curious about it. You have to.
Yes.
You're not running the GIGN shotgun, so
No. SAS
Yeah.
shotgun, that one.
Smoke and mute are still quite strong.
Smoke and mute.
Even with that, though, even with what you're talking about the pump, why have we seen Bosco running the FMG recently?
It's only been on a couple sites.
I know, but why?
I mean, the positions he was in, it was better for it, basically. I think he was running it. He ran it one time in
Club
Clubhouse,
was the
right?
big one that I saw.
Club Rafters. He ran it. That was more because of the Montaigne.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you watch people, they don't usually play Smoke and Rafters. And if you do play in Rafters with Smoke, you definitely don't want to just have the SMG because like it's longer range gunfights up there, right? So he wanted to have the FMG, but it was also Nyx was running a lot of Montaigne, so that was a big part of it. And then the other time we ran it on Theme Park as well.
Yeah, that's what I remember seeing. I've seen a couple teams, not even just Bosco. I've seen a couple teams run the FMG, and I assumed it's because if
the
there was
Theme Park Throne one is the one people are running the FMG on.
Yeah,
and it's just because you don't have to make holes on that site, and it's like depending where you're playing, like it's pretty long range engagements once the tarp wall is open to throw. So yeah, maintenance I think it's called in game. We call it tarp.
Yeah, there's maintenance. Maintenance is the one that leads to the dragon side, and then barrels on the other side that leads to main lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your take on Oregon? Do you like it?
I liked the old Oregon better, but
really?
That's because I mean I loved the old Oregon. We were really good at it on EG, right? So I loved it. I had it figured out. This one, it's like I'm growing to like it more, but the gameplay is frustrating on it. It is a very good map for Wamai, a very good map for Clash, and a very good map for pump shotguns. Like it's just it's a frustrating the way it plays out is frustrating, at least for attackers. Like obviously defense seems easy, but I don't know, it's very clunky for attackers. It's a lot of just throwing flashes to clear stuff and then trying to
Yeah.
nade something. Like it's not very fun. But I
Throw
mean,
flashes to clear stuff, though, is the meta at the moment.
it is. But it's the thing is on Oregon is that in a lot of the places, like it's not very safe. Like there's some very bad spots to throw flashes. Like for example, like the basement by the tower stairs, the big pillar
Yeah.
down
Pillar,
there.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of people play by pillar.
Yeah, you got
There's
Kaid down there. You put a deployable shield. You stack up Wamais on the doorway leading from box to bunker or blue, whatever you
there's
call it.
there's no real good place to flash pillar from to clear stuff. Like you could do it from the
What about back tower
E
stairs?
box. So, but that's the thing. The angle on that sucks.
Yeah.
Like to peek that angle, you're basically peeking the pillar, and he can peek from both sides of pillar.
Yeah.
And if you want to flash pillar right, you have to throw it straight down. You can't bank it off the wall. So sometimes you can like flash down the meeting hatch, and then it'll roll to there. But if they're placed right, like you can't even do that. So like that area is very clunky. I mean, there's ways to do it. Like you can definitely clear it, but it gets scrappy. Like there's no guarantee that if you go to throw a flashbang there, like there's a good chance you die or lose health. It's just it could happen. If the guy pre-fires at the right time, like it could happen.
How many times do you
And
see magnets stacked up in that area, though? Because usually the magnets tend to go towards the breach on that one side of blue where everybody's playing the deployable shield, and then they fall
yeah,
back and reinforce. Capitao, if he goes unbanned, as you pointed out, Thatcher and Maverick tend to be the most common bans on that map.
hmm
If Capitao goes unbanned, he seems like the most sensible clear as long as you know there's no magnets there. Because one
it
fire
just
arrow will be able to push pillars out either towards freezer hallway or towards the back stairs.
it just depends on the team. Like some
Yeah.
teams do put magnets there. Some teams don't. A lot of them do, like you said, they put them in L. And that's another spot where it's not so bad to clear, but it depends how the teams play it. Because again, that's a good spot to play aggressive with the pump. So like let's say your team is holding pillar without the magnets, and then they're holding L. That's the spot you were talking about with the magnets. So then they're holding L with the magnets. If they're playing aggressive like on that turn with the pumps while you're flashing for blue, like there's no safe spot to flash. Like you have to kind of peek in and bank it off the wall. And like the pump can easily just swing around the corner
Yeah.
and get aggressive on you. And there's no other angles from the attackers to kind of hold that, if you know what I'm saying. It depends how the defense is set up. There's a lot of cases where like if the defense isn't set up right, there's probably a safe way to flash and clear things. But there are ways to where it's not very safe.
Wait, I'm trying to think of your defensive setup that you did where you opened up some of that freezer wall. You had Wamai and Jaeger playing in, and then you were inside of the like hallway
hmm
by freezer, and it's just like you fall enough back. I couldn't remember if at that time you had somebody actively playing pillar with the defensive setup.
Well, so the free you're thinking of when I was playing in freezer with Clash.
Yeah, and then you were playing around freezer as well. You were covering like the freezer door into freezer, but then also hallway, and you could push to pillars if you needed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean that they were attacking more on the freezer and laundry side. So
yeah,
obviously, like we rotate. You're gonna rotate utility accordingly, right? Like that's what any team is gonna do. Obviously, they're not gonna rotate everything, but because like teams can fake you out and stuff. But
yeah.
you're still gonna play by pillar. But like we weren't heavily invested in it because the brunt of the attack was like freezer and laundry. Um, so I mean, we were playing there, but I don't think we had a ton of utility. I think we rotated a bit. But also, that's the thing with Clash is like if you're running Clash, like you don't even need a bunch of utility with her. And this brings me to another point that I wanted to mention. I guess I'll kind of transition into it. Is I didn't even know this was going to happen. I didn't see it coming. But in the first episode, you remember I was complaining about how this utility soak meta where you're just sitting there clearing Wamais and ADSs and shields and bubbles and all that.
Right,
That usually requires all of your utility, right?
right,
When you add in Clash, like Clash is another operator where like you just dump utility at her to try to kill her, right? And if you think about it, if you waste utility on Clash and you don't kill her, all of a sudden you can't deal with that bubble. You can't deal with that shield, right?
right.
So like you can put Clash in a spot like Freezer where like people are going to throw flashes, nades, all that. And if she survives, which it's hard to kill Clash, it actually is. Like without
Especially with
Callie,
Wamai now. Especially
yes,
with Wamai. Yeah.
yes, like Callie's pretty good against her, I will say.
Yeah.
But you don't want to bring Callie unless you have to. And Clash just soaks up utility.
Yeah.
So you can like put her in a spot like that, and she just sits there, takes a bunch of utility, and then you just back up. And I mean, if she survived, the round's looking pretty slow for the attackers.
Yeah. I'm interested to know what they can really do to fix Callie, because a lot of people have said, "Oh, give her a different primary," but the problem is that like the sniper is
That's
her
her
primary,
identity.
like that is her gun, right? Like you can't
Mhm.
take that away. It's the same as Glaz. Like, are you going to take away his gun? Like, yeah, you give Glaz the R4C, cool. Now what? Like, you've taken away his identity, right? So I wonder I wonder really what they can do, because snipers, just to me, with how close quarters everything is, will never really have a place unless they're more overpowered. And I know you obviously had some choice words for her when she was first announced. So,
Yeah,
how strong you thought she was?
yeah. It's. I mean, I touched on it before. It's hard to find a sweet spot, right?
Right.
I will say she's becoming more useful now because the demand is raising for her. There's more maps. Like Oregon is a map that she's needed on more, and like teams are bringing her more just for dealing with utility, like as a Thatcher replacement, basically. Still not the best, just as a Thatcher replacement. But now with the Reza Clash, like I don't know, she's gonna be played more
I
just
don't
because you got to deal with the Clash a lot now.
I don't want
Teams
to
are
see
playing her more.
Clash. Please.
It's not a fun operator. It's not. I mean, like,
No.
and we won with her, and like I play her. I have. I'm not gonna lie. I have a blast playing her. I really do. It's because
It's
it's
because you
honestly
don't
because
miss.
I'm a sick fuck.
You
Honestly,
can't miss with her.
that could be part of it. But like I find it hilarious. I just stand there and they can't kill me, and I slow them down, and I just laugh at them. I'm like, you're fucking dead. Like I'm just standing there, and then like I
Ah,
have
my
like
team's nuts.
I have Fultz or Rampy beside me. I'm just like, just kill this fucking idiot. He's stuck here. Like come kill this guy. And like a lot of the time, there's nothing they can do. And if they waste utility on me, then I just back up and we play our setup, and we're all good. Um, I don't know. It's it's not enjoyable gameplay like to play against or
No, I don't
watch.
think she's a fun operator to play against, or I don't think she's fun to play as either.
Hmm.
I will say that. I obviously, like, I understand her benefits. I want her in a place where she has a 5 to 10, maybe 15% pick rate, depending on certain sites and certain setups. A really niche operator, kind of similar to the way that we see teams using Montaigne right now, where not everybody's going to run him all the time. They've got their idea of a setup. He gets brought out. Yeah, maybe it's a little cheese, sure, but at least it's unique enough and it's not commonplace. But I think casting Clash is boring. And frankly, right now, it's really challenging to cast the game, because it's just like so much of what the attackers do is just it's just to destroy the defense, like like magnets and ADSs, like
Yep.
that's it. So it's like we can do the setup, and it's like almost every single round, with the exception of a couple like really, really good teams, almost every single round boils down to, well, they confronted 3 ADSs and 5 magnets, and then they spent 15 minutes trying to figure out if they could push through it or rotate, but then they didn't rotate, so they just had to push through it, and then everybody shot each other and died.
And that's a big thing about Clash too, is that when teams are clearing that kind of setup, right? Like when a guy's peeking and throwing his flashbangs to clear an ADS or magnets, like she just slows you down. And this
Yeah.
guy's standing there with his fucking flashbang in his hand. And then the Alda's turning the corner, pre-firing his 81 bullets and just mowing them down. Like, it's she fits. She fits with the current meta. And
Yeah.
I mean
Sadly.
on it, yeah. I mean when I was complaining about it, I didn't think it could get worse, but I'm not too hopeful. I don't know. It's the meta is taking a turn for the worse, I think. I don't know. I think her play rate's going to rise. Callie's play rate's going to rise. I'm not sure how it's going to stabilize from that, because I will say Callie does a good job of dealing with Clash. So
Yeah.
like your Clash player, like he's not going to want to keep picking Clash when the other team has a Cali. He's not.
We're getting into a really weird conversation that I want to talk about, but here's my point of comparison, because I'm okay. So this is going to be very niche. This is going to be the nichest of the niche.
Okay.
But if you look at the three big MOBAs, or well, I guess there's only two left now, but at the time when Heroes of the Storm was still considered a quote unquote big MOBA, and I know immediately there's going to be people being like, HOTS never was. And it's like, just pretend for a second here, okay? And the problem they had was that in Dota and League, there are items that you buy that basically put everybody on the same level. So you don't need to bring a necessarily hyper mobile champion, because you can just buy items that can accomplish that feat. You can buy whatever shit you need.
Dagger in Dota.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't need that because it's not inherent in the operator itself. You know, like in Heroes of the Storm, there's only certain, there's only, I guess, technically one real hero that can teleport. But then you've got, like Tracer and Genji who are super mobile, and everybody's really frustrated because it's like, 99% of the other heroes have no mobility to chase them down. And it's just like, you're getting cheesed the whole time. There's nothing you can do because there's no items for you to buy. I feel like we're kind of, and HOTS painted itself into a corner with that by deciding that items were too complicated for MOBAs, which is a conversation for another day. And then ultimately locking in mobility based on operator or by their heroes. We have kind of the same thing happening right now, where they keep creating all of these gadgets and all of these, specifically defender utility, that is like, it requires some kind of explosive or whatever to get rid of it. But the problem is that certain operators have more of it than others. So you have no choice but to bring the ones, that have it. Whereas if you opened it up, like we've talked about before, where like maybe you have the ability to bring like, everybody can bring flashbangs, or everybody can bring like decoys to clear this stuff. If there's a billion, options for attackers when it comes to bringing like explosives, if everybody could bring like a third gadget, if every attacker had like a little ash charger or a little ash cannon where just like they just fire off a little projectile and just does a small little explosive, but it's enough to take out evil eyes, or it's enough to take out, deployable shields, or it's enough to take out, Malusi's wubs, banshees as they're officially called. Like, or if everybody could bring like one frag grenade instead of two, like you find yourself in a position where the meta becomes so much more flexible, because you don't need to bring a Sledge, a Zofia, an Ashe, whoever every single time. And, we've talked about operators like Ying, to a certain extent, Dokkaebi, Gridlock. Why are they not getting brought, even though they're pretty good operators that can work really effectively on certain pushes? Because they do absolutely nothing in terms of explosives, so they fill a role poorly in comparison to another operator. And I feel like to a certain extent, they've kind of painted themselves into a corner right now with how many bulletproof gadgets they're creating, because now explosives are by far and away the most important thing for most attackers, or at least utility clear. And like, certain operators just don't have it. They don't. So they're totally fucking useless.
You need the balance of explosives to clear the utility, and then whatever flashbangs preferably to clear the ADSs and magnets. And like, that's the thing. We joked about it the other day at scrims. Lycan said, he's like, you could make Ashe as slow as Gridlock, and you could give her like the shittiest gun ever. She'd be picked all the time still right now.
Yeah.
Her utility is like fucking top notch right now. And that's the thing. You don't think of that with Ashe, right?
That was never the thing. People would pick Ashe to run in and die.
Yes. Now she's like unparalleled fucking utility clear. Like
three
she
flashes,
has 3 flashbangs and 2 Ashe charges.
Yeah.
No one else has anything close to that. No one else can clear ADSs and blow shit up.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Zofia can, but not to the same extent.
I'd actually talked about this, and I know that it will be very unpopular, but it's something I addressed on a podcast. I can't remember which podcast it was, where you stop balancing around secondary gadgets and you just make them pooled. So, for example, you can bring, you have a 5-man lineup. Cool. You can only bring, like 3 nitro cells at most. or you can only bring 2 deployable shields at most, or you can only bring 2 sets of frags at most. And then you take them away from
You can
everybody.
pick from all of them.
Yeah,
I
everybody.
like that.
Operators no longer have secondary gadgets. They have their primary gadget, but you could have a thermite with frag grenades if you really wanted to. You know, you
I
could,
like that.
you know, every single secondary gadget is open to every operator, but they are capped by the team. The problem is that in solo queue, this would be a nightmare because you just have some random person taking whatever gadget, secondary gadget, and then not using them effectively.
True.
But if you're playing like in competitive play, or if you're playing in, you know, whatever, we keep seeing this, like the first step to nerf every operator is to either lower the damage on their gun or to swap out their secondary gadgets. Those are the first 2 steps always. Oh, Buck's too strong? Take his frag grenades. You know, oh, so-and-so's too weak? Give them frag grenades. Like, to me, that's improper balancing. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. If they're too strong, sure, maybe look at their kit, but maybe keep the frag grenades and find a way to limit their effectiveness elsewhere. And the problem is that, like, by taking away Buck's frags, you didn't make him more even with Sledge. You've just made Sledge better. Buck's pick rate has fallen off a cliff now. And maybe that's okay because Buck was way too good and was, you know, there was really never much of a reason to take Sledge prior. But I think all you've done is make Sledge be the required operator now. You haven't done anything. You just pushed the problem onto Sledge instead of addressing it with Buck.
I will say though, like, and it's part of your point here is, like, part of the reason Buck was so good, obviously Buck was a great operator. But I think something that really interesting that would happen is if this was implemented, like you're saying, is teams could bring they could bring whatever lineup they want, and then they'd have the utility they need. Like, a team could focus like on like a Ying or like some sort of like execute heavy lineup, and they wouldn't need to bring like a Buck or a Sledge. Like, they wouldn't need to bring top down, but they'd still, like, they could bring Ying and they'd still be able to have nades and explosives to clear vision. Because that's the thing, is like, if you want to bring Ying, you have to be able to clear the vision. You have to be able to clear the ADSs.
Right.
But it's unrealistic to be able to bring that right now. I just think the options in terms of your lineup could be so much better. Like, there would be teams that would still keep like Ashe, Zofia, Buck, and then like Hardbreacher and like Nomad or something, right? Teams would still keep that, but then there'd also be teams that would bring like IQ, Ying, Monty, Hardbreach, and like Nomad.
Yeah.
And if you could bring the right utility, like, I think that'd be good. Like, it opens up so many more options, and I think it makes the game more interesting.
Or even if people are hesitant about that, because I know that a lot of people are going to say, you know, well, if we cap it, then, you know, what's to stop the 2 dickheads from just grabbing frags and running off on our team, you know, that are playing like Thermite and Thatcher. Sure, maybe expand how many secondary gadgets they have. Maybe the attackers now have a choice of 4, for example. Like, maybe you have it so that instead of it just being like flashes and claymore, they also have maybe like frag grenades and breaches, you know, like, who knows? So, you know, to me, that could be an option, or even expand it to 3, where it's like, you know, you never want Thermite having frag grenades, you know, okay, fine. Expand his secondary gadget from 2 to 3. Now they have access to 3 of them, and even then could open up more potential and, you know, have ways for people to clear. Because frankly, you know, if you've got an operator who's got claymores and breaches, they better have explosives, because if they don't, they're fucking useless. Like, most of the time in this meta right now, they are nowhere near as useful as their peers. So if you can add flashes to that, maybe give them breaches and claymores, but maybe give them flashes as a third option. Now you found there's more flexibility, right? And I don't like that they keep balancing operators off of secondary gadgets. I frankly, I think it's lazy, and I don't think it really addresses the underlying issue. If an operator's kit synergizes too well, fine, maybe retool that. I think a lot of people looked at Ella and they said everything about her is too strong. She's 3 speed, stupid gun, great gadget, no counterplay, and she has impacts. Did I think it was wrong they took impacts from her? Not really, but I mean, I think you could have kept her impacts and nerfed her gun and nerfed her gadget and you would have been fine. You know? So for me, I don't like that they keep tinkering with operators with their secondary gadgets. Like I said, I don't think it fixes the issue. Because
Yeah.
if you really want to roam aggressively now and be a 3-speed, people are just going to pick Vigil or Alibi or Cav and do the same shit with Impact. They have a
Yeah.
worse gun, sure, but it's like you haven't fixed the issue. You've just pushed another operator into that spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's a bad thing to balance around. Yeah, I think yeah, it'd be better if everyone could use the same secondary gadgets, and then yeah, it's capped,
Yeah.
so that you don't have too many of them, because that would be problematic if you had people running too many flashbangs, too many nades, banning Jaeger, all that. Yeah, that would be too problematic. But I do think yeah, you need more options, because you're currently just locked into you need to have this many flashbangs, and you need to pick from these operators in order to have this many flashbangs,
Yeah.
and you need to have one set of nades, and you at that point it's like, okay, we're bringing Sledge or Mav depending on what type of hard breach is needed on the map, and yeah, you're too locked in. um I like the idea. It's a good idea.
I know that
Anyway,
that's one of those ideas where the casual community will absolutely hate it.
mm,
But I mean, if it gets implemented, I mean, they hated everything. They hate ACOG removal. They hated quick leaning, like too bad. I think it's way better. Your team was talking about removing leaning from the game. I've actually seen a lot of players say that getting rid of leaning would solve a ton of issues with this game. And it's like, dude, if we got rid of leaning from this game,
I don't know.
like,
Bosco said that it would help with a lot of the problems that we have online,
yeah.
with like the online inconsistency of this game. I will say,
Or
I
make
do
it so
think
that you lean slower. Like, I would be very happy with that. Like,
yeah. I I don't know if I want them to get rid of it, just because I think it's part of what makes the game like entertaining to watch. Like people that have that crazy movement where they can quickly and peak all sorts of things and
yeah,
all that. And the thing is at least in the competitive environment, that is balanced on LAN. Like it's not a problem on LAN. Like I've never like fought a jiggle peeking fucking maniac on LAN
yeah,
and like had a problem, because the thing is, like on LAN, when the guy's fucking bobbing his head back and forth like a maniac in a doorway, right? You see it the first time and you just start pre-firing, and literally the next time that guy presses his lean key, he's dead,
yeah.
and he has no say in the matter. Um, but online, like there's just no hitting the guy, and the next thing you know, you're dead, and you never even saw him. Um, but
I don't even
it,
know how to fix it. I mean, everybody says get better servers, higher tick rate, blah blah. But it's like, is that possible? Because
I mean,
it costs money. I'm assuming. I'm not a dev here, and I don't know anything about networking. But I'd imagine that to get higher tick rate servers that are more reliable, that you'd need to shell out a lot of money. And I think that there has been a very obvious reluctance from Ubisoft to do that in the
yeah.
past.
I mean, the thing is at the end of the day, like in an online FPS, there's there's going to be issues online in FPS. There is,
Yeah,
especially at the high. Like as you get better and better too, you're going to notice it more and more.
yeah,
It is what it is. I don't think that can change. I just think the highest level for competition, I mean, obviously we're trying to do it now, and now we will be playing on LAN and NA once we can.
yeah.
Um, just transitioning more into more and more LAN tournaments. I mean, it's the highest level of competition. It should be on LAN like at all times. And
I
I
agree.
see people like I've seen people say it about Counter Strike, and it like I the conversation came up because of the COVID situation. Things started to transition back more to online, because they hadn't been playing like anything of significance online for so long.
Yep.
And then people started to remember, like, oh yeah, online CS is a thing, and like people started to notice, like, yeah, better teams are losing to weaker teams, because yeah, it's just anything can fucking happen online.
Same's
It can.
happening in COD as well. They're freaking
Yeah.
out that CDL's been moved online, and they're saying that all the COD players are like, this needs to be played on LAN. There's more competitive integrity. Playing online is such a different ball game and blah blah blah. And yeah, the CS:GO thing's actually been quite fascinating, because this is where a lot of people in our community lose perspective. And one thing I've really found about Siege fans is that I find a lot of because we are, I guess, a newer game / newer esport, I find a lot of Rainbow Six Siege fans either don't watch other esports, or if they do, they don't really pay that much attention to the conversations that go around. And, I talked about this on my own podcast a couple days ago, where it's like, fans freak out and treat things like the sky is falling, but that exact same thing has happened in multiple esports and even traditional sports, and everything's going to be fine, right? But CSGO is the most interesting one, because to everybody, they are the standard. They have 128 tick rate. They've got great responsiveness. They've got a FACEIT FPL system where players actually love playing like in the Pro 10s, like, we had for a period of time. And, Rainbow Six is constantly asking for everything that CSGO has. And then these CSGO players have to play like a tourney online, and they hate it. And they talk about how shit it is, and they talk about how it's not fun, and how, there's problems with the servers, there's problems with hit reg, and there's problems, just playing online and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, maybe all the complaining that we do isn't because of the game. It's because this is how every video game online works in comparison to playing it in person. Like,
yes.
But to the casual viewer, this is a great example to them of how shit Ubisoft is and how terrible our game is because of all this stuff. And it's like, is it great that our game oftentimes feels like it's held together with Scotch tape? No, it doesn't feel great. And the devs have been doing, I think, a commendable job of fixing it. Obviously, COVID has put a major hurt on their ability to react quickly because they're all working from home. But at the same time, it's very clear that if you play any game online, with the exception of even MOBAs, if you play any game online as a shooting game, you're going to hate playing online versus playing on LAN. It's just the way it works. Everybody's going to tell you that. And it doesn't mean that Rainbow Six sucks. It just means that that's how FPS games play out online. You can just ask Call of Duty and CSGO.
The thing is, too, is that, like, there's even, like, some of my fucking teammates are even guilty of this. But, like, there's pro players that make these same complaints you're talking about. Like, CS is fine online, though. Like, CS has better servers, better hit rate. The thing is like, and I don't fucking know. I don't know. Like, technically, yes, they do have better servers and all that, right? At the end of the day, though,
like the golden standard.
But the thing is like, you don't notice it as much unless you're the absolute fucking best.
Yeah.
You don't. When you're way better, and especially when you've played on LAN, that's when you notice it more, right? And like when you're really good at the game, like, exactly when you should be winning a gunfight, right?
Right.
So, like, and then a lot of people don't necessarily realize that. So, like, there will be like Siege players that will get on CS and they'll be like, "Oh, this feels great compared to Siege." It still fucking sucks on. Yeah, it does. Pro CS players will tell you that it's not. There's no pro CS player that'll be like, "Yeah, online CS is fine." And same with COD, and same with Valorant now. Like, online shooters suck. They do.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Peeker's advantage and hit reg will always be poor when you're playing online and there's latency involved. There's no way around it. None. Because if you got somebody playing from one side of the continent and you got somebody else playing from the other side of the continent and the servers are having problems or blah, blah, shit's not happening in real time. It's just no way. And you can try to reduce that latency as much as possible, but it's never going to make up for you literally playing at the other end of a stage against that same person.
Yeah.
So,
I think, transitioning to LAN as much as we can. I think that's the biggest way to deal with that. And that way we'll have the highest level of competition as frequently as possible. I think that's the biggest thing. Fuck, I had something else to add to that. Damn it, man. God damn it, I'm blanking now.
Okay, well, we can come back to it. I think this is a good jumping off point for the, I guess, because I want to get into questions. We've already been going for about an hour and 20 minutes. This has flown by the way. This is a good jumping off point, I think, to talk about, I guess, the league or the leagues as a whole. Because we've got a couple things to talk about. Very briefly, I'd like to get into what's going on right now in EUL with the whole caster drama and our scene being not exactly the most welcoming of new faces. Then we can talk about the Hyena Twitter madness, as you called it, where this man is just descending into madness before our very eyes over the course of many weeks and many months. And then on top of that, in keeping with the other Twitter drama, because Twitter was great for people that were bored this week. You had Farrell's tweet just raking the EU talent over the coals. You had the Twitter drama that came with that. You had Hyena deciding to call out like half the teams. And then you had Merc basically saying that he couldn't deal with the pressures because of what was going on with TSM and their fan base. And I think all of these are a pretty good discussion, especially with how much we've all kind of been leaning on social media during the shutdown. I mean, if you can't leave and you can't really do much, I find myself checking Twitter way more than usual. And I know that that's not healthy because Twitter is hell. So, and I'm usually somebody who likes Twitter. I can't imagine people who hate Twitter. So, which one of those do you want to start with? You want to start with the EUL stuff? You want to start with the Merc stuff? You want to start with the Hyena stuff?
I'm gonna start with the EUL. EUL.
So for those that haven't caught up to speed, then I'll just give a bit of a refresher. For those that don't know, Farrell, former player for Team Secret, former coach, very briefly for Penta.
I remembered what I was gonna say.
Okay,
real
say
quick.
it. Let's get into it.
And this is just real quick. So about all the online bullshit.
Yeah.
And this is like how I view it. It's just the fact that like, and I think that other people should just take like online results with a grain of salt, right?
Right.
And I think that's something that should be done, like, and then that's something that's done in other games. Like, I noticed like analysts and stuff in CS will even mention all the time too in CS is like when like a really good team loses online, it's just like it could be online CS. Like, don't take like one loss as like obviously like I'm in a position here where like we lost in Pro League, so I'm fucking defending myself a bit. But that it's not the case. Like, I'll tell you right now, like fucking win or lose online. Like, if we go on to win the NA major, don't call us fucking nasty because we won it. All right. Don't fucking like don't add anything or like take anything away from teams unless they're getting like smoked. Like, if we're getting smoked and we're not winning shit online all the time, then be like, all right, something's going on here. Right.
Yeah.
But if the top teams are keeping neck and neck with each other, it's very hard to tell. Like, if someone's losing a fucking clencher series online by like one round, it's just like, who knows? Like, who knows who really would have won that matchup on land, right? You don't fucking know. Like,
you just want to defend yourself against the DG match.
That's not it.
That's 100%.
They played. They're actually nasty. NJR is fucking nasty. That guy's crazy. But anyways, but that is
you
my
really
point.
making up a whole point just to defend yourself against DG.
But I do think that it's something important to do because I don't think like teams should get overhyped from the online results. I think I tweeted something about this like before. I think I tweeted it before the season started. Was like some CS player tweeted something about online, and I quote retweeted it, and I was like, the same standard needs to be kind of held. Like, the same thing applies to Siege.
Yeah,
because it's just. I think someone was like giving Astralis shit or Liquid, some like top team in CS. They were giving them shit because they lost to someone that they probably shouldn't online. And then I think it was Daps. I forget. I don't know what team he's on.
You're flying solo on this. I didn't see this drama.
Anyways, okay. He just tweeted something about just online CS being different and that teams shouldn't be given like too much shit, or also that basically that results should be taken with a grain of salt. Yeah. And I think it's something important to keep in mind. And again, same thing goes for winning. Like, if I win the major online, like maybe I'll fucking crack a joke or something, but like, dude, it really like I can't even get that hyped like winning an online season or like an online, like right now, like qualifying for the online major. Obviously I want to. Obviously I'm going to be excited if we qualify.
Right.
But it's not the same feeling because I don't feel like we're really proving something, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I feel that. And it's just like it's a different ball game, and playing online is much smaller peanuts, right? So it's a different
and
game.
Also, if you're not playing against international competition too, it kind of changes things, I think.
Yeah. And I am very interested to see what happens in regards to the major and how they deal with it. Like I said, I don't have any information on it. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know where it will or won't be. I don't know if it's going to be online. So we'll wait and see, and we'll wait future information. But let's get into the EUL stuff then.
Didn't they made an announcement about it being online? A public announcement.
No, I don't remember. I remember seeing it.
I remember seeing people tweet about like not going to the major because of it. Or was it that Yeah, it was that it was canceled because of it, and that there'd be online majors in place. I'd have to find it.
I have no idea, dude.
Maybe not.
I have found it so challenging to keep up to date with everything now that I'm not involved with all of it in one regional place. Like just trying to keep in touch with like what's going on in Europe and what's going on in like Brazil and APAC and all that. I find it's a lot harder. So, yeah, I don't know. It could be that they announced it already, but it's just like I try to keep up to date with it, but it's just like there's, you know, outside of like going to Siege GG or something like that, it's not unified. Like we used to get emails from ESL that would basically give us like all the updates on the goings ons and happenings and all that, and it was really, really helpful. We don't get that from FACEIT because we only get updates now about the USD, right? Like or NAL rather technically. So it's like I have to go out of my way to try to figure out what's going on with Europe or what's going on with like whatever teams, and it's all based on, you know, schedules. And it's like the thing for me with EUL and APAC in particular, APAC is like it's just not on time zone wise for us that really works. So it's impossible to grab it live, and it also falls on my only 2 days off. You know, we have Tuesday reserved for like emergencies, like rehearsals, meetings, etc., but that we haven't needed it yet. So Tuesday is technically the only day off I have each week is Thursday. All of the other 6 days are busy and blocked. So it's like I only get 1 day off. Obviously, I have like the first half of the day off, but it's like on Tuesdays and Thursdays when APAC are like, no offense, on Thursday, the last thing I want to do is anything Rainbow Six related because I'm doing it for 6 other fucking days of the week. So Thursdays are usually my days where I just detach, and it's like I'll either game on my own, or I'll go out for like a long hike, or I'll go drive around, or I'll take my dogs for a walk, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard to keep track of all of it unless you're like just living on Twitter. And that's why I think more than anything, the subreddit needs to be like the portal for people. And I think I've actually kind of seen how there's stuff that's been announced that hasn't gotten any feedback on the subreddit. And it's kind of disappointing because I've missed it because I haven't seen it on Twitter. And then I just go to the subreddit and I'm like, oh, it's not here either. This is weird. So, but anyway, let's go on to the EUL stuff, because right now they're having obviously some issues after Farrell's tweet. And the one thing I will talk about regarding EUL is that I don't know what goes on internally over there. I don't know how they do talent, etc. I know that when Kix and I were talking to the regions as to where we were going to go to cast, we made it a deal breaker if we got split up. We wanted to stay together, and we were told for EUL, you know, that was fine. If we did go over to EUL, that would have been fine. I don't know why they're not doing pairs, but that seems to be the big issue. And there's a couple things I want to address really quickly. And I did my own like stream / whatever about this bang on I think it was Wednesday. Because if you look at the EUL talent roster, they have some people on there with decent experience, but they've never had experience at a tier 1 level, and they don't have experience with each other, right? Like Milos is by far and away the most experienced talent that they have over there. And he's known for being a caster, but he has also made it very clear that he doesn't want to cast, and he hasn't for quite some time. He told me back in like 2018 that he wanted to be a desk host, and he didn't want to cast any longer, but there was just, frankly, there was nobody else at the time who was good enough, nor, and here's the kicker, willing to give up their life and move to Poland, which was a huge burden for a lot of people. And I know it sounds silly because Poland is a nice place, but the location was a major obstacle for talent. A lot of would-be casters said, like, I'm not moving to Poland. And it's like, you know, that right there excludes you from working the job straight up. So the 3 casters that I've noticed the most getting the heat are Hap, Jess, and Geo. I will say this, though. Jess has actually been getting a lot less heat than I'd anticipated, given the blow up that happened in this community when she got the spot for SI. I thought that it would be much worse, but I think Jess did a great job at SI, and I think she shut up a lot of the fucking mouth breathers that, you know, thought, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't know what she's saying. And then it turns out that she knows what she's doing, and she also knows what she's saying. So, I think Jess has done a bang up job. I think all of EUL has been fine. And I want to say that because I don't want like Geo and Hap thinking I'm shitting on them by specifically focusing on Jess. But a lot of people were saying, you know, for Jess or for Geo or for Hap, you know, why didn't they get more tier 1 experience?
Mm-hmm.
To which I have to say that from the inception of Rainbow Six Pro League, originally there was only 2 spots for tier 1 casters. It eventually expanded to 4, of which 2 were for Xbox. When Xbox folded, it then became 4, which went down to 3, and then it went down even further to 2, and then shot back up to 4 and stayed at 4. Mm-hmm. There have never been more than 4 spots at any one time to develop new talent. So unless you wanted them to fire all 4 of us and bring in 4 new people for a couple seasons so that we were unemployed while other people got experience, there was no way for somebody like Geo or Hap or Dezichu, etc. And I mean, you can even argue if casting ANZ is technically tier 1 experience, as I've seen some people do. I think it is for Dev on his side of things. But it's like Jess couldn't have come in and casted tier 1. There weren't any spots. Geo couldn't have come in and casted tier 1. There weren't any spots. Hap couldn't have come in and casted tier 1. There weren't any spots. So all these people are saying like, why don't they just stick them down in Challenger League? Sure, in a perfect world, that's where these players would, or that's where these casters who didn't have tier 1 experience would have gone. But there would not be enough casters to cast at a tier 1 level.
Yeah.
So who are you going to find to do this? Like, that's the thing. If you're saying like the only people who should be casting tier 1 are people who've already casted tier 1 or at least toiled for a long time in tier 2, the problem was that there was nowhere near enough people to fill either of those criteria. So you had to just pull people and hope that they did well. And I think they're doing well. I think the bigger issue with Europe is that they don't have consistent duos.
Yeah.
You know, you can take 2 mediocre casters that don't really know the game all that well, but if they're really entertaining and they're doing well together and synergizing, you'll forgive a lot of those mistakes. And the problem is that you've got inexperienced tier 1 Rainbow Six casters in EUL, which is fair to say, and they don't get to establish any chemistry with each other.
That's definitely a problem. I mean, yeah, they need to gain experience. So like, obviously, like I'm not you can't expect them to be like flawless fucking casters right away with no experience, right? But like as they're building the experience, yeah, they should be building it with a partner, like a duo.
Yep.
And then they grow together. I mean, in some cases, yeah, maybe they might not end up that good. Maybe they don't grow that much. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. Sometimes there's a failed experiment in that sense, I guess. But like a lot of the time, it's gonna turn out well. Like you gotta give people time to work together. There's no way that could help. Like constantly swapping around. Like I don't even cast, but I know that wouldn't be ideal. Just casting with a new person every other match or whatever.
I can tell you from experience right now, it feels like you're hitting reset every time you go back onto the mic. Like, I cannot begin to describe to people who don't cast how crucial it is that you stay with the same person. Because the way that you banter and just simply have a conversation with somebody is going to, vary wildly. What you pick up on, how you toss off, how you pace around, how you are more comfortable doing play-by-play, or are you more comfortable doing color commentary? And then how does that work within it? Especially a game like Rainbow Six, where 85% of a round is going to be color commentary. Mm-hmm. Or it might be play-by-play, but it's being done in a way to set up color commentary in regards to you play-by-playing how a team is droning or executing.
Yeah.
Like, every single time you go live, there's zero feeling of progression and there's zero feeling of improvement if you're with somebody new every time, because you have to get used to their idiosyncrasies. You have to get used to their rhythm. And the other thing too is that, let's say you and I are casting 1 match a day together, but then you're casting with Jeffrey and I'm casting with Linda. When I cast with Linda, I'm learning different things about her style. And when you're casting with Jeffrey, you're learning different things about his style. So the way that you're improving and the way that you're growing as a caster with me is entirely different than the way you're doing it with Jeffrey. So you might be thinking to yourself, sorry?
Because it doesn't apply like with you.
Yeah.
Like, the way I'm, like
when you can't, like maybe Jeffrey's the kind of guy, Like, here's a great example that I can actually pull from experience. When I used to cast with Kix at the beginning, Kix was very long-winded, and he liked to talk for a minute to a minute and a half because that was his dynamic with Bloodbath. When he was with Panky, a lot of times Panky would talk for like 2 minutes of the round, and Kix would just kind of fill in here or there like a traditional color commentator would do. And frankly, with the way Rainbow Six Siege plays, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have one person dominate the conversation because there's so much downtime that you kind of need both to be able to talk. Fair enough. So when he transitioned from Panky, where he was speaking less, to Bloodbath was very rigid about how they talked. So for Bloodbath, they wanted like long-winded, almost like these diatribe-esque like casting. I thought it was dreadful to listen to because you shouldn't be talking for more than like 30 to 45 seconds. You shouldn't be, unless there's no proper pacing and the action is just crazy and you can't give it up, then continue on. But by and large, when a round is, 2 to 3 minutes, you should be trading off every 30-ish seconds, give or take. When I first started casting with Kix, I found it very challenging because I was used to casting for like the final minute to a minute and a half of a round when I was casting with Talon and CCS, but I did a lot of solo casting, so I was used to talking a ton. When Kix would talk for long periods of time, I was like, okay, maybe like let's rein this in because we're finding times where it's hard for us to get a proper word in if we're all just talking so long and it's not being flexible. So I come to the Six Invitational 2018, first SI, and I get partnered up with Zeronic, who's brought in as an analyst, but he's also going to be casting groups. Well, Zeronic, he is notoriously short on words. I would set up something and throw it to Zeronic, and he would talk for 15 seconds and then pass it back to me. And then I'd talk for a minute and 20 seconds because that's what I was used to with Kix. So there would be rounds where it'd feel like Zeronic would talk for like 40 seconds out of the 3 minutes plus prep phase, plus, reveal, well, not reveal phase of the time, etc. So I had to unlearn that. And it got to the point where by the end of that match, I'm now talking in 20-second intervals, so is he. But I can't apply that back to Kix. So when I went to go back to cast with Kix, everything I'd learned with Zeronic was wasted. And that's what I'm getting at, is it's like, if I was casting with you and you and I had like a nice synergy going, but then I go cast with Linda and you go cast with Jeffrey, everything we've learned casting with each other is basically useless, frankly. And I think that's kind of what EUL is doing right now, is that because they keep shaking up the casters, there's no progression. Nobody's really improving because none of the duos are improving. And the people who are improving as individuals are doing so despite whatever chemistry they might be developing, which with their co-caster, which I think is the wrong way to be improving.
I agree.
So,
I mean, yeah, they're just, it's holding themselves back long-term just by, it stunts their growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would know better than me, but like, it makes perfect sense to me. So I agree. Yeah.
It's just, for me, it sucks. And, I remember when ESL tried to do this one time. I can't remember what season it was. And I don't remember if Ubisoft had asked or not. But I remember we had a meeting. And it was Milo, Shemzo, Kix, and I, obviously. And then we had a couple like League Ops guys there, and we met at the studio. And they're like, for this season, we don't necessarily want to be so rigid with our roles. We kind of want to swap things up. And we're like, well, why? Do you mean that? Like, why? And they're like, oh, just to, like give other duos, like to increase like your synergy with each other, and like just kind of like make it so it's not just like 2 duos and, like it's 4. And all 4 of us just said, fuck no, we're not doing that. We will not do that. We all put our foot down. And then ESL was like, okay, well, we're not going to do that then, So I have a feeling, and I don't know how much power they have, but I have a feeling that if the EUL casters all kind of came together and went to either FACEIT or Ubisoft or whoever's directive this is, that they're maybe the casters. I will tell you that the casters don't strike me as enjoying rotating, but that's just my own speculation. I would say that if the casters wanted duos, if they all band together and they go to Ubisoft or FACEIT and they say, hey, stop this. Like, we want to establish duos. We want to work on that. This is the hill we die on. It's not a fight that Ubisoft or FACEIT wins personally. Like, I don't see them winning it. Like, the casters will win that fight. If all of them go together and say, we are doing duos, here are the duos, this is how it's going to be, like, obviously approach it nicely first. Obviously go in and approach it and say, hey, you know, we'd like to do duos. And if ESL if FACEIT or Ubisoft are like, take a hike, that's when then you say, okay, well, we're just not going to cast them. Like, we want to be duos. This is how it's going to work. Like, these are our careers as well. I don't see FACEIT and Ubisoft winning that battle personally. I mean, maybe, who knows? And it's really risky. But it's like, if that's a hill you're willing to die on, then sometimes you got to die to try and, you know, defend whatever honor or whatever opinions you may have, right?
Yep. I mean,
so
I'm for it, but
I think it would make for a better show.
I think so as well.
You know, because say what you will about whether the talent is used to tier 1 siege or not, they're all going to learn, right? Like, I never faced even 1/10 of this level of scrutiny when I debuted. And I don't think people realize how little I'd actually like played the game. I mean, the pros probably realized it for my casting, but like the general audience probably didn't. Keep your opinions to yourself. Anyway, I started playing in January. My first cast was May or June. I can't remember. I think it was the last week of May, beginning of June. Can't remember the exact date. And then I was in Pro League in September. You know, that is at best. The first time I played the game was January 4th, because I went back and checked when I created my Uplay account. It was January 4th, 2017. We're talking about 9 months of me playing this game, and then I am casting at a tier 1 level. You know, and the game is a lot more complex now.
Yep.
Fair. But I never faced even 1/10 of this scrutiny. I will say, I think a big part of why I didn't face the scrutiny is because I was seen as effectively replacing Bloodbath, who was not well loved in the community. And I will say that is probably a reason why I didn't receive as much scrutiny, but I think it's kind of unreasonable for people to take a step back and look at the big picture and not understand where these casters are coming from, and the fact that they've got to learn, and you just shitting on them doesn't help.
I agree. I mean, I think when you were coming in also, I mean, I guess there was tier 1 casters, but like, it wasn't as developed, right? Like, it's a lot more developed now. Like,
yeah,
you and Kix are like the voices of the game in terms of like, it's iconic, right? In that sense. It wasn't really the case before. I mean, Panky I think Panky was like the closest we had to it.
He only casted for a year though, eh? Like I know. It's crazy. I think people look back and think he casted for longer than that.
I think just the reason why it was like that though is because he was the first caster in this game that was casting that had like any like remote experience. Like,
yeah, it came from League
casting.
And StarCraft.
Yeah.
Like
he had experience from outside of the game, so it was like he was like the first kind of voice in that sense, and then everyone else was brand new to it. Like Emzo, I think, was initially like an analyst for a team. Like, he just played the game.
He right? did like he was in like software design, but he played the game, and yeah, he did analysis work.
Yeah. And then like Kix was a former pro player.
Yeah.
And Bloodbath, former pro player. Like, none of them came from casting other games.
Yeah.
Milos eventually came in and he casted Battlefield.
Yeah.
But like, that was all this was happening like, yeah, just before anything was developed. Now it's a bit different. So people like, I think, compare like the new EUL talent to you and Kix probably. And that's where they give the criticism in that sense. But yeah, I mean, you got to give people time to develop. You do.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like that's how it's going to be. When we're developing new talent, that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
If we were bringing in talent from like another game and then they're really not doing well, I can understand a bit more. But like, this is literally like us trying to develop Siege talent. Like, just people that come from Siege and want to cast in Siege. I mean, Dez and Geo, I think, casted like Overwatch a bit here and there, but like,
yes.
Yeah, either way, we're trying to develop our own new talent and all that, and you got to give it time. And like you said, working in duos will help that.
That's the one big thing that it's like, it would cost them nothing if they just reverse course on the rotating duos. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the talent want it because there's so many matches that it gives them time off. I don't know because they don't have a set desk, right? Like in NA, we're kind of, I don't know, we're really lucky because we have a solid desk. So when Kix and I are done, we're done. Whereas in EUL, it's like you'll have Jess and Dev on the desk, and then you'll have Hap and Geo casting, and the next match it'll be Geo and Zeronic on the desk, and then Jess will be casting with, you know, whoever. Like, so they're always working shows back to back, and it's like it ends up being a slog. So maybe they wanted to rotate because it gives them more time off. I honestly, I don't know, but the big thing for me that I really don't like about I mean, this happens in every esport. This is not a Rainbow Six thing, but I don't like that that our community is just overwhelmingly hostile to new talent whenever they come in. You know, the Matt Andrews thing always comes to mind as one of like the most embarrassing periods of time for our community, because for the first time ever with Golden Boy coming in, you get a world-class host. You've got a ton of attention and a ton of eyes on, you know, TSM is now in the esport. The Raleigh Major prior to had a whole whack of teams playing really, really well. The event itself was a dud from a competitive standpoint. I think you'd agree with that. The matches were mostly all bad, and the storylines that came out of it were meh. But shaping up, it looked like it was a great event on paper. You know, huge amount of talent coming into the scene. It was a good opportunity for Veli, you know, to stretch his legs. And then, you know, what ends up happening is the story that comes out, the biggest story around esports was how we are the only community. I mean, Valorant has now taken that on. Good for Valorant. That community seems beyond toxic. But we were the only community at the time that shit on Golden Boy. And it wasn't even just like, hey, we don't like him. It was dominating Twitter and Twitch and the subreddit for days. And I think people have short memories because they're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It's like, oh no, it was pretty bad. It was really bad. And I've had to answer to it in other esports where it's like, I've gone out, I've been at DreamHack, and they're like, oh, you're literally somebody was like, oh, isn't Rainbow Six a community that like rejected Golden Boy? And I was like, yep. Like, and that's not to say that Alex was flawless at Raleigh. I think he did a great job. I think obviously he had some hiccups. He was new, but I think he had some hiccups. But I mean, people try to look at Matt Andrews with like, you know, rose-colored glasses, and it's like Matt made mistakes like regularly, you know? Mistakes with the pronunciation of players' names, naming, you know, the wrong people on certain teams, forgetting that people were on teams, you know, etc. Like, it happens. Everybody makes mistakes. Does it mean that Matt's a shit host? No. Does it mean that Golden Boy's a shit host? No. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, it sucks. And for people that are wondering, yeah, apparently Valorant was like just destroying his casting or something like that. And it's just like, dude, everything I hear about the Valorant community makes me just want to like avoid it and not touch it with like a 30-foot pole. It makes Valorant makes the Rainbow Six scene look like Club Penguin.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wait, is Club Penguin supposed to be friendly?
Yeah, it's like all friendly and really nice and cozy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like,
I don't know. I've met some crazy people on Club Penguin, bro.
I mean, it's supposed to be like, I don't know, Hello Kitty Adventure. What comparison do you want that sounds nice?
Crazy, bro. Some people hop on Club Penguin just to start cooking people, bro. You get banned quick though. I
mean, nobody's hopping on Club Penguin anymore. RIP. F's in the chat. But
I'm not gonna lie. I used to, in the day I would talk shit on Club Penguin.
No, I
forget what about, but I would.
The one thing that I will say about our community, and this is always what gets lost, is I'll say like, oh, you all shit on Golden Boy, and somebody will always say this. It always happens. It happened on Reddit, by the way, just as I called it on my Bang On. Mm-hmm. I said there's going to be somebody who's going to say this. Sure enough, there's somebody on Reddit who said it, who's like, oh, so we can't criticize talent anymore? It's like, no, you fucking numbskull. That's not what I mean. Like, there's
a difference between criticism and just being like,
super toxic and hateful.
This guy fucking sucks. Give us Matt back.
Yeah, like, and just like saying that once, sure. Repeatedly posting that, Dude, the week of the Raleigh Major, I was getting tagged in tweets from people being like, what the fuck is this? Like, at INTERRO, at Kickstar, at ESL, bring back, at Matt Andrews TV, at Golden Boy FTW sucks, what the fuck? And I'm like, why am I getting tagged in these? Like, stop tagging me in these. I don't have any power.
Yep.
Like, I loved working with Golden Boy. I have never had a problem working with Matt Andrews. There's no host I've ever had. Sorry?
I like working with him too. I was briefly on to roast you in the casters match.
Yeah.
Hung out with him a bit, talked with him a bit. Yeah. No, I had no problems with him, but
no. And
I mean, like you said, people make mistakes, but yeah, it was, I didn't pay enough attention to the public side of it because I was fucking going through shit with EG at the time.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, our team was in the shits, so
it was imploding.
Yeah, but I mean, I had heard about it, and
yeah. It was not fun.
It's not what you like to hear. It's not what you like to hear.
And it's like, it got so bad that like we decided as talent to put out tweets addressing it. Mm-hmm. And like Golden Boy openly like addressed it on Twitter because it got to that point. And it's like, you're talking about a guy who has literally seen it all and done it all and been part of some of the biggest events in esports. He's been around for a decade, handpicked by The Rock to work on the Titan games, for fuck's sakes. Like, the guy's reputation and his success speaks for himself. And maybe he's not the best fit for Rainbow Six Siege. Sure, who knows? I think he's fine. I think he made one mistake, and it just so happened to be a mistake where, Fabian owned up to it literally on this podcast. He said he shouldn't have said it, said he shouldn't have handled it the way he did. But at the end of the day, it's like, if production's telling you somebody's coming, and also the one thing that a lot of people don't know is that Golden Boy's meet and greet was scheduled for the TSM G2 match, so he didn't get to watch any of it. It was the only time that I didn't see Golden Boy in the green room with us, asking questions, writing things down, watching the matches. And it's like, he was dedicated. I will say that. Like, he wasn't sitting there. Like, it's very easy when the match is on in the green room. You're sitting there, you're on your phone, you're fucking around on social media. Golden Boy wasn't. He would check his phone like every now and then, but he had a notepad in front of him. He was taking down notes, asking questions, saying, who's worth interviewing on this team? Should we talk to this person? What questions should I ask about them? I don't know their entire background story, etc. And anyway, we've talked the Golden Boy thing to death. I just think it's a good example. And then the community goes ahead and does it to a certain extent with Jess on SI, and is now kind of doing it with EUL. And like, I can get it. I think for EUL, it's more that it's a tempest in a teapot. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but because everything else seems to suck, like, we're all trapped inside, COVID sucks, there's no hope. And then, like, people hate draws, people hate best of ones. The game is not necessarily in the most enjoyable spot to play either. And I think like all of that kind of just becomes like this perfect storm where the talent is like the easiest thing to criticize.
I mean, something to keep in mind, like, okay, we have this talent in the UL. If you bitch at them and be like, these guys fucking suck, like, what's that gonna do? Like, it's not gonna make them better. And we're not just gonna magically get better talent. Like,
wait. You mean that when you have a bad game and people message you on Twitter and at you and say that you suck, it doesn't immediately improve your skill?
Exactly. Like, people need to realize how unproductive this is. At the end of the day, we need to develop more talent. Yeah. Like, there's a reason. We do. Like, we have a shortage of tier 1 talent in Siege. Period. There's no arguing that. There's no denying that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like fucking every caster we have is tier 1. I don't think that's the case. I don't think anyone should think that's the case. But the only way we're going to develop it is you give them time to work together to improve. And some of them, not even all of them, because that's not how it fucking works. Not everyone just becomes great at what they do.
Yeah.
Some of them will develop to be tier 1 casters. And then we can be happy with that. But like, until then, you got to let them develop. Like, it is what it is. Like, we're not just going to like magically get fucking some like top-notch CSGO caster. Like, why the fuck is he going to leave CSGO to come cast Siege? Like,
well, maybe if they want to pay less taxes and take a massive pay cut.
Exactly. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Just at the end of the day, like, give him time. Like, it literally does nothing by saying like, this talent's shit. Like, okay, like what are we going to do about it? If you like, you couldn't even tell me. Like, I could not find like better talent to hire for like some of these leagues. Like, the only argument you can make is that like, I think that Ace didn't get hired into EUL, but he is doing Brazil. which I mean is good news. But like that was like the one question mark for me, was that Ace wasn't doing EU well. But like that's it.
Dez tweeted. Let me find it. To me, it makes no sense that. So, I will say this because I don't want to piss off anybody. But what I will say is, I think that the smartest move for EUL is to build their core talent roster around the Ace and Dez combo. You know, I'm not going to rate every casting pair other than Kix and myself. But I will say that if you're in Europe, I don't think there is a current better European duo than Ace and Dez. And I think that they are good enough to carry the casting of that league, regardless of who you throw around them. Now, when you fill in, great analysts, like you've got Jess, you've got Dev, you've got Zeronic, they have tons of skill doing analysis. It's very clear now that both Jess and Dev are more than comfortable doing casting as well. You've got Milos, who is, really coming to his own as a host. And then you've got Hap and Geo, who are still learning the ropes and are still learning the game. Hap knows the game, but he's still learning casting, whereas Geo knows casting, but is still learning the game. I think you've got a pretty good talent roster. I don't know exactly what happened with Ace and Dez, and this is really puzzling. And Dez has tweeted a number of times, and it's always been very. It seems like he's trying to say. It sounds like he's trying to say something, but he can't. Dez tweeted yesterday night actually, saying, "In case anyone thinks it, the reason I'm not doing the last 2 weeks of EU and APAC has nothing to do with me not wanting to move to Paris. I'm not the only talent member planning to commute. Same as the stories about Ace not doing it due to his family. Those are also false." That's all he said. And it's like, it seems like he's alluding to like something bigger. And I mean, I remember, I think it was Dez who tweeted way back that Ace wasn't even approached when EUL was getting off the ground. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I think that's a colossal mistake. I was listening to BR6 literally while I was making food before we started this podcast. And I was listening to Ace and Dez, and I was just like, oh, it's like pouring honey into your ear. I loved it. Don't actually pour honey into your ear, by the way. Unless you want to, and you're an adult, then do whatever the fuck you want. But I was listening to it, and I was like, man, these guys should be the voice of EUL. And I don't say that to take away from the other casters, by all means, like don't. But these guys should be the premier duo in EUL. They should be.
They're good.
They're not good. They're very good. Like they're very good already.
Yes.
Ace is very, like, the one thing I will say about Ace is that he doesn't really have a high enthusiasm. He kind of plateaus when he gets excited. If he can move that energy up a notch, 10 out of 10. Dez, I think Dez is extraordinarily good on camera. I think he speaks really well. He's got great wordplay. He's still learning the game. But Ace knows a fucking ton about the game. So they actually work out really well covering each other's deficiencies, but they will improve. And the crazy thing to me is that people are trying to compare these duos. People are even doing right now. They're comparing Ace and Dez to Kix and I. Kix and I have not just been casting, but casting together virtually every region and every Rainbow Six event for 3 years. And you're going to compare a duo that their first real crack at casting together was SI, and then that was it. Like, don't be stupid. They fucking killed it. They did great. Yeah. They did awesome.
Like, I remember seeing so many people saying like that they were fucking killing it, and that like they wish they didn't just do the groups, that they would do the main event as well. I wish they did the main event as well. Yeah, I genuinely really enjoy listening to them cast, and I say this, this. I listen to the stream muted a lot of the time.
Yep, as do
that's not even like, it's just, it is what it is. But like, I genuinely, I enjoy listening to them cast. It's just like, I have fun. I feel like the way I do when I watch like another esport, where it's just like I'm watching like as a fan.
Yep.
I will say, like, a lot of the time I don't watch like that. Like, I'm just watching to learn or to prep, whatever. But like, I feel like I'm watching like a fan, and I just enjoy the casting. I enjoy the match when I listen to them. And I mean, I think that's great. And like you said, I think they should be the voice of EU. But
I think
That was big.
I think
Not
I
getting
think the
it.
part of it is that Rainbow Six casting is very American. If you listen to any other esport, Overwatch is also very American to a certain extent, but every other esport outside of that, given that it is really they're all global, they've got a lot of influences outside of the region. And then when I say American style, is it's like kind of that American broadcaster, not much personality, kind of just like, here's casting, I cast exactly the same as everybody else. And our scene is really brutal when people try to stray from that. Kix and I can get away with the banter and the jokes and all that shit that we do because we have never fucking cared what the community says. Like a lot of casters like will make jokes and shit, and then the community will send them a bunch of hateful Twitter messages and hateful ats and all this shit, and then those casters will feel scared because they piss people off. Kix and I don't give a fuck. If you think our humor is stupid or cringy or whatever, then mute the stream or just don't listen. We don't care. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice like a good style of commentary, which is like banter heavy in especially matches that aren't really high stakes, just because a bunch of dickheads don't understand jokes and spam haha cringe in the chat. But it's like, I find that if you watch CSGO, unless it's a major LAN event, most CSGO casting is quite relaxed. It's quite conversational. There's not a lot of hype. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of downtime. And there's only a couple really explosive rounds of action. If we try to do that in Rainbow Six, like, no offense, but it's like the Challenger League match that we did on Friday was literally for third place or second place in the group of the first stage of CL. It's as low stakes as you're going to get. And I know that if we just kind of dialed it in, just kind of done like a fun, goofy cast, which frankly, that level of competition really warrants, we would have been raked over the coals for it, for being like low energy or blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of people who watch Rainbow Six who want us to cast every single matchup like it's the Six Invitational Finals. And that's just not how it's going to be. That's not doable. And it's bad casting. Because if everything's a 10, then nothing's a 10. Because when you finally do see a 10, it's not going to feel like it. Right? Which is the main knock I have against a lot of newer casters, is they like blow up and get super excited and start screaming over like a 2K. And it's like, chill on the screaming. But that's the one thing I do like about Des and Ace, is they're like really conversational and it's very unique, and it's a style of casting we've never heard in Rainbow Six. And that's what I think people like so much about it, is that it's so different from what you've heard before.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's this puts us at a good point to now jump off into the Twitter drama involving Hyena and Merc. Thank you for going through casting stuff while I just had my group therapy session right now. You want to start with Hyena or Merc?
Maybe Merc. I think that's like more of a broad topic. It's not necessarily just about Merc, because it kind of applies to everyone in a sense.
Yeah. Start off. Sound off about the Merc situation.
I mean, I think most people probably know about it, but just basically, I think obviously Merc hasn't been performing like up to his standards and what a lot of people expect of him. No one's denying that. He's not even denying that, right? It is what it is. But he's I think he tweeted after their last match against, who was it against? OXG, right? Yeah, OXG.
Yeah.
He tweeted basically like that all the hate and stuff on Twitter has been hard, and then he's got to take a break from it. I will say, and basically there's like the differing opinions on it. There's the people that say like, all right, you got to be fucking nicer to the guy, which is true. People are dickheads. Be nicer. It is what it is. But there's also the side of it that it is the fucking internet, and there's going to be dickheads. It is what it is. People are going to be assholes. And there's not a lot you can do about that. Obviously, I mean, we should speak out and say like, yeah, people shouldn't be assholes, and people should consider that they're like talking to an actual fucking person. But it is kind of part of the job, and like you do need to, I guess, deal with the fact that like it's gonna come your way. And especially so, I will say one thing that I am not big on about the whole situation is that Merc is one of the people that types. Like he likes to type good night when he fucking smokes you off the game. I personally, I don't think that he can be affected as much as, like, he should be affected as much as he is if he's going to type shit like that. I think he's got to cut the fucking typing until he gets his shit together. He's got to cut the fucking typing, and he's got to continue to do it until he's going to be able to keep his shit together. Because honestly, it's going to give people more ammo, and you can't be throwing punches if you can't take the heat back, right?
It's like the saying, talk shit, get hit.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, I feel bad for Merc because, like, I mean, I've been there, and the first time someone's dealing with that, like, yeah, it fucking sucks. Like, it is what it is. But so I feel bad for him, and I want him to get past it and everything like that. But like, just being real with him, like, he's gotta, like, just fucking ignore it, bro. Fuck him. Like, there's a reason he's a player on that team. There's a reason why he's, like, got the following he got. Like, the guy's fucking good at the game, right? There's no denying it. You're not going to be able to convince me that Merc's not fucking crazy at Siege. But yeah, like, he's just whatever. Ignore him. I mean, obviously, I think there's, like, also a lot of shit that he got. I think he, like, posted a TikTok of his girlfriend or something. And then, like, people gave him a bunch of shit about it, saying it was cringe, all sorts of stuff like that. And I think that added onto it as well.
Then wasn't there also a little bit of commentary regarding, like, why are you making TikToks with your girlfriend when your stats suck? Which is a really dumb thing to say, but I did see a lot of that.
See that? I didn't read much of it.
Yeah.
But, like,
because you're not allowed to do more than one thing. You're not allowed to do anything but. This is one thing. That's it.
But yeah. I don't know. I think he can handle it better, but I do think people are fucking assholes. So
I
don't know.
I also think he's a kid.
Yes.
And I mean, he goes from having a couple hundred followers on Twitter to, like, what is he, almost at 30,000 in the span of a year? Like, he was down in Challenger League on OC, like, last summer. Hasn't even been a year yet. And he's been gifted, a significant higher following on Twitter than a ton of pros. And it's like, he gets insane traction. He tweets anything and it just blows up. And I think you said it correctly, where it's like, I don't agree in regards to, like, it's the internet. I never have. Like, the internet is now not the internet anymore. It is so much real life, and especially during COVID, it is probably more real life than real life right now. And it's like, that whole, like, oh, if you're being cyberbullying, just, walk off the internet. It's like, we are so hopelessly intertwined with the internet. You can't just not use the internet. It doesn't work that way. And I think that given especially what's happened recently with a bunch of Twitch streamers, unfortunately, taking their own lives, a lot of them talking specifically about the code of conduct online and how people treat each other online. I think we have a very important conversation to have regarding the fact that we need to be nicer. Like, how many first name, bunch of numbers, shitty fucking Twitter accounts do you see on a daily basis just saying the dumbest thing? Like, Keith 069245 calling you a slur or something like that. And you're like, default Twitter avatar, like, great. And it's like, what does it do? And then you get a couple people doing that. Like, it gets to you. It does get to you. It used to get to me. Like, back in the day when I was first starting out, I would get criticism from somebody with, like, one follower, fake profile, could be a bot, and it would tear me up. You never show that it gets to you, but it's still annoying, right? And for sure. And for Merc, the thing for me is, it's like, on the one hand, you can say, yeah, it's just the internet, but I think the bigger thing with Merc is that you're right. He's the guy that is, frankly, he talks shit all game to his teammate or to his opponents.
Yeah.
Like, you're the guy that's, like, saying goodnight and stuff like that, and, like, making jokes and, like, teabagging in game and, like, the GGs, like, good night, don't ever type again, thank you. Like, you give off, by doing that, you give off an edge, like, fuck you, I'm going to say what I want.
Yeah.
Which is going to prompt people to adopt that attitude when talking to you as well.
Yes.
So if you're going to talk a lot of shit, you're going to invite people to talk that same shit back to you, especially if they don't like you.
Yes.
And you need to be ready for that. And that's where media training comes in. And unfortunately, none of these, cyber pro athletes, none of them get it. Nobody gets proper media training. There's no outlet there. I don't know about Merc. Does he have a healthy social circle? Can he log off and go hang out with real life friends that aren't teammates? Does he have pals from back home? Does he have parents he can talk to? Does he have anything else to go to? Probably not really. Most gamers don't. They're so intertwined with this community that it's like, you can't take a breather.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what's the solution? I guess like just develop thicker skin. Like, I feel like given what's happened on Twitch and Twitter recently with people literally dying, that's not a real solution. So like, what is, I don't know. He's announced he's taking a break from Twitter. Is that the solution?
I mean, he's gonna have to develop thicker skin, and I think he will. Like you said, he's a kid. I mean, like you said, you were probably affected. You were affected by a lot more when you first started as well.
I was 27 when I started.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and you were still affected at first. And like I was the same way when I first started playing professionally. Like at first, I would watch the VOD and I'd read Twitch chat and fucking I'd read shit and I'd be like, oh fuck, my bad. Like I'd read some shit and it would hurt a little bit, and I realized that hey, there's going to be a lot of fucking people that are going to say some shit like that. And there's also going to be a lot of people that are going to say nice things. And I actually posted like a quote tweet to him, or I tweeted a quote to him, and it was when leadership brings like a lot of praise and criticism, and like you can't be unduly affected by either, something along those lines. I don't remember the exact words.
Right. You love your tweets. You love your quote tweets.
The coach quotes.
Love those.
Love them.
You love them.
But yeah, but it's true though. Like people are going to gas you up, and you can't take it. I think that's part of it too. Is that I think like Merc and his typing too. I think part of it was he's receiving the praise too, and it really built him up. And then he started to do poorly, and that's when you get the other side of it. And you have to be able to take both. And like I've received the same as well, because at first I was winning on the game, and I was loud and fucking screaming on stage and stuff like that, and people loved it and they're hyping me up.
Yeah, you don't do that anymore.
Yeah. But then I started losing. And then I started getting cooked. Right? And that's how it's going to be. And now I don't get cooked nearly as much in Twitch chat because I'm winning again. Like it's going to be back and forth. That's how it's going to be. And you have to realize that. I do think he has to go through, like, you have to go through it to realize it, right? Like, he only had the high. Like, he didn't have the low before. Now he has the low. And I think he's going to process it a bit, and he's going to realize, okay, like, if I have a bad game, people are going to react just to that bad game. They're going to forget about the whole bigger picture. And yeah, it's just, you got to take some time to realize that. I think taking a break from Twitter is good. I mean, I don't think something like I do sometimes is, yeah, like if I don't want to, I don't fucking read anything. I tweet and I DM, and that's it. I haven't told you that before. Like I start using WhatsApp more stuff as well.
Oh no, I noticed you used to. There was a period of time where we joked about it at an event. We were neck and neck in like Twitter interaction and like growth and stuff like that. And then I think it was around the time of the Raleigh Major, you just kind of fell off. You just stopped using Twitter. You stopped streaming. You just basically disappeared, and you burrowed into your team.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I was going through the shit, so I need to figure some things out. So
I think it was very well deserved, your break.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you do that. I don't even think. I mean, I didn't say anything publicly because I didn't need to. Like, I just knew that I needed to take a break from it and just focus on myself, focus on the team, and just. I mean, I'll tweet GGs. I'll still stay active. Because like you said, it is like part of our lives. Like we like I can't like delete Twitter, right? Like if I like completely deleted Twitter, never had Twitter, like that'd be a problem. Like
it's a requirement in this industry. Yeah, it's not just a requirement, but it is also a huge benefit too if you have a big following.
It is. And I mean, like that's not even like just like that's not even to say like oh yeah, you got to play the impressions and like not be genuine and try to build yourself up and stuff like that. No, it's just so that people can fucking know you. Like,
yeah,
just to get yourself out there, because otherwise you're just a fucking name on the scoreboard and that's it, right? Like, people would have no idea who I am otherwise. And social media is a big part of that. Obviously, there's content on the side of that helps as well. But yeah, social media is a big part of that. So
Yeah.
Staying involved on it is important.
It's not just important. I think it's critical, and this can actually transition us into the last topic before we go into some questions, which is Hyena, because I think it's it's talking about your career post esports, which it certainly seems like Hyena is gearing up for. But what I will say is that there are a lot of people who get into esports with zero transferable skills. They either don't have a degree, or they don't have previous work experience, or they don't have a network or friend circle outside of gaming, and their entire life is this industry. And then God forbid you become bad or the meta shifts, and next thing you know, you go from being one of the greatest players in the region to nobody's picking you up on a team. And even if you do get picked up, you might struggle and you're never able to recapture that magic. So what do? You spend 4 years living at your parents' house trying to play competitively, scraping together a couple $1,000s from winnings, and then eventually this game dies or you move on, and what are you left with? You're left with nothing. And the one thing that I would encourage every single player / caster to do is grow your fucking brand. Yeah, Twitter's hell. It's fucking awful. I hate Twitter. But if you do not have Twitter in this industry, you are handicapping yourself harder than anything else. Twitter is the portal for people in esports. When you go to events and you meet an influencer, or you meet somebody that's a caster, or you meet a TO or something along those lines, you know what you exchange? You don't exchange emails, you exchange Twitters. Because Twitter brings legitimacy, and Twitter is a very public portal and a way to connect with people. So it's like, I see these casters and I see these players that with all due respect, yeah, they want to focus on their game. But I see these players who are like middle of the pack, and they don't use Twitter and they don't use Twitch. And I'm like, you're one bad season away from never playing pro again, and you have nothing to fall back on. You don't stream, you don't produce content, you're not really that interesting on social media, so people don't have a reason to follow you. It's like, grow that. Tweet funny things. Tweet coach quotes if you want. Like, stream, do Instagram. I mean, do just TikTok if you want.
Whatever you like.
Yeah, but like, grow your brand. And maybe some people don't want to do that. Fine. But it's like, there have been a lot of conversations recently that I've seen among people in the industry, most of whom are casters and talent, who are like, well, what the fuck do I do now that I'm not working events? And it's like, you stream. What do you mean, what do I do? You're a face or a voice of the game. Like, and I find it so common, and it's like, players do this to a certain extent, but I also find that there are casters who do this as well. And I'm not going to call out any casters, but there are casters in other esports who literally, they don't really use Twitter. And if they do, it's boring. All they do is show up, cast matches, and then go home. This is an industry where you get out of it what you put into it. If you're good enough to just show up and then leave, and then you can collect a check, sure, all the power to you. But I know how much money a lot of people in this industry are making, and they are not making enough money to retire off of, and certainly not enough to live well off of. And they are not good enough to immediately jump to another esport if their esport dies. So you are killing yourself by not going into Twitch or not doing content online, because you have nothing to fall back on. And especially now, there have been talent who have worked only like 1 or 2 online events since like February, March. Like, you're making, like, maybe they're making $1,000 a day at most, depending on the game.
Yeah.
That is nowhere near enough to live off of over the last 5 months. And it's not going to get any better. So it's like, stream. And it's a problem that we have, honestly. And I hate that you've kind of fallen off of social media, because you were always like so consistently good. And now Fabian is also kind of pulled back from social media. And it's just like, we've lost 2 of like the best people for making content like within our scene. And now both of them are just like quiet.
Twitter's not as bad. I kind of keep up with Twitter still.
Yeah.
It sometimes it's hard to add stuff. I try to tweet during matches or stuff like that. Yeah, Twitter's something that I want to keep more up with, and I try to. But like, streaming is tough. I feel like that it's a lot more demanding. At least like as a pro player. And if you want to really grow your stream, right? Like, if I really want to grow my stream, I got to stream Siege. Period. it's hard to stream Siege right now. It
Dude, I
is.
have had zero interest. I have a charm in the game.
Yeah.
It is a license to print money for everybody who has one. And I have zero compulsion to stream this game right now.
Yeah.
Just no interest.
It's tough right now.
It's really tough.
And it'll only affect my job. Like if I force myself to stream Siege, like I'm gonna be in a bad mood for practice. I'm gonna be very unmotivated outside of the game and motivated just in the game as well, like to get on for practice. It's not gonna be good. So like I'm trying to I mean obviously it's just trying to find the balance, right, of being able to, yeah, like continue to grow my brain and yeah, like contribute to social media and all that, but still just be in a good spot for competitive Siege. I think Twitter's like kind of the sweet spot for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta try to chip in more there. I don't think I've been too bad, but yeah, I've definitely had phases where I've fallen out of it, and I think that's just when it gets really serious with the team. And honestly, probably something I could be better about is probably like tweeting something like that when I'm in that kind of period of time where it's just I'm really focused on the team and just not even thinking to tweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is important to do it. It's huge.
I don't think it's I don't think it's second nature to most people. You know, a lot of gamers are introverts. That's why they don't do more social hobbies. You know, I think if you look at most of the people in our scene, in our community, a lot of them are relatively quiet. They're pretty shy. The only time I really ever see them like loosen up is at events when they've had like one or two drinks and then they totally come alive, which is pretty standard for everybody. But you know, yeah, I find it really scary, you know, because like I have things to fall back on outside of gaming. But I know that there are a lot of people that don't. A lot. Most, if not an overwhelming majority of the people in this community, if Siege disappeared tomorrow, they'd be fucked. Utterly fucked. You know? And, you know, you might have some savings, sure. But number one, the economy right now is not really going to be in a good place for probably a couple years. And two, what, are you going to go back to school? And then you're going to set yourself back a couple years before you get your degree. And I mean, that's admirable, but start setting yourself up now. And if you think like you're good at it or content creation is a thing, etc., like go into it. And I got to say, you know, nobody in particular, but there are definitely people that are still, even in pro league, that are first cut on a lot of teams or are in challenger league or trying to get into challenger league that probably should have retired a season or two ago and tried getting into coaching or tried getting into casting. And they don't. And unfortunately, like they're missing the boat on that because we're getting to a point now where coaches are starting to get picked up. Yeah, you might be able to get a job, but it's definitely riskier now. But it's like you're going to soldier on through the, you know, through the depths of hell in amateur scene to try and get back into pro league on a wing and a prayer. And there's a lot of teams with players like that right now in NA Challenger League in particular, not even including Europe. In an NA Challenger League, you know, you've got players that should have given up. And I don't even say give up, but they should have transitioned and realized that I understand. And I know that you can probably speak to this more than anybody else. The drive to compete is one that is almost impossible to silence. But at the same time, there comes a time where your head and your heart need to align and you need to realize, hey, I'm not actually as good as I thought I would be. Maybe I can make more money or set myself up for something better long-term somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to speak on it because I don't know how I'd be in the situation. Thankfully, so like even when my teams have dropped, like when EG was going through it, I mean, I still believed I was good. I still believed EG had potential to be good. I obviously we had to make changes or I had to leave, whatever, like things need to be done, but I still believed I was good and I was. I wasn't wrong,
Yeah.
thankfully. I don't know, like the thing is I don't know like if it's the same situation with other people, like if they're like not at the top level anymore. Like maybe yeah, it'd be worth it for them to go into coaching or casting or whatever. But like they can't realize it. Like they think they're good, and maybe I would be the same in that position. I try to be real with myself in that sense. Like I think I did an fuck? Uh-oh. Oh,
What?
boy.
Heads up, there's smoke. Kids
You hear that?
the alarm. The
It's
alarm.
Bro, I got a fucking story about this one. This fucking thing, bro. I think
Dude,
tweeted
did
about
Rampy
it.
just
It
set a
happened.
record in T-Hunt and your fire alarms went off?
It happened at 4. Nothing even goes on. It does this warning over and over again. It goes, it goes, heads up, there's smoke in the office. The alarm will sound. The alarm is loud. And it just keeps on fucking doing it. And it happened at 4 in the fucking morning, bro, and it wouldn't give it a fucking rest. And me, like, and then Nate were just in our group chat. We're like, dude, will this bitch shut up? And then the actual alarm went off, and we're just standing out there. We're like, turn this off. We unplugged them.
Whenever I make...
I'm sure they're handling it, though, so I think it'll stop.
Well, it hasn't
I think
gone
we'll be
off,
good.
and you've got a number of people in your house, so...
Yeah,
It's gotten to
I
the
think we'll be
point
good.
where I took down the smoke alarm that's like over near my kitchen because it is, I don't know, dude. It is as sensitive as a standard Twitter user because it's just like the moment the tiniest bit of smoke happens, it goes off and it does not stop. It will go off for like 5 minutes. I'm like, there's nothing. It got to the point where I've just taken it down. I'll just throw it into another room because I don't want to fucking deal with it and just like put it up later and hope that I remember and the house doesn't burn down.
And then there's another one, like, so right outside my room, there's like a loft that's like, me, Fultz, and Nate are up here, and there's like a loft outside of it. And the alarm there doesn't in fucking Spanish for some reason. So when we were out there at night, like, I just kept hearing the same alarm in English in here. And then I went out there when it was actually going off, and I hear it in Spanish. I'm like, the fuck is going on? This is a new one.
All right,
Anyway.
So let's get into the hyena part now. By the way, this is our last topic before we get into questions.
I gotta pull up his tweets, bro.
Dude, that man went.
He had a bunch of them. He's got
off.
more, probably. He does have more. I mean, I mean, he clearly loves it.
Does he love it? Do you think he loves it?
Oh, he loves it.
Okay.
He loves it. There's no way you're tweeting stuff like that if you don't love it. Like, he enjoys doing this.
He was in here the other day. He was in here during the coaches thing, I think, and he said, "Tell Troy he looks cute." And I don't think I ever relayed it to you. So, but I don't want to tell you now because I don't know if he thinks you look cute today. So,
damn, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciated it nonetheless.
Thanks, Keon.
Yeah, thanks. Keon's a good guy. I like Keon.
I do as well. I will say that I think the way that he handled the situation with Ubisoft was not great. When I went in on that, I think it was a dumb way to deal with it. And I think that he put the blame wrongly, squarely on the shoulders of a company that was largely just following rules, and that he should have looked inwards at his own org as the culprit for most of the, the heartburn that they had to deal with. But it's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as his tweets go, I mean, I think there was one that I went back and forth on him with. Let me find it.
Yeah, I saw that because he kind of called you out and SSG out about buying players.
Yeah, we talked afterwards to clear things up, and I don't think his intention was to call us out. It was more so, I want to read the tweet so I can give everyone context.
Right.
Oh, here it is. Okay. So there's a series of them. First, he tweets something, basically someone wanted his opinion on Crazy, and he gave his opinion on Crazy, basically that people just keep picking him up because they know he has pro league experience. I don't think Crazy's too bad of a player. I do agree that there's probably some younger players that it might be worth taking a risk on, but just because Crazy's been around forever, maybe doesn't have what it takes to be at the absolute top. Right. Also, Crazy, go ahead and shut me up, by all means. I know, I think he has a pretty good attitude about that, but he's been around forever and he hasn't kind of leveled up in that sense, I guess, if you know what I'm saying.
No, I feel you.
Journeyman.
This is the part. The Journeyman one was so good because Journeymen aren't even bad. Journeyman is just somebody who's good enough to keep landing on teams. It's not like somebody who's shit that just gets picked up. I thought that was kind of a weird.
I mean, it's accurate. I think what he's getting at though is he thinks newer players should be people should take the risk on. He did say something he followed up, said pro league is politics and clout based a lot of the time. Unfortunately, that's why PL players like Rex and Drip, Butters, etc., who are better than 40% of PL. I think that's a very big exaggeration.
I think that is extremely charitable of a number.
That's
Yes.
I disagree with that one. Nate actually replied to it because that's a stretch.
Yeah.
And he said, "Make your teammates your friends, not your friends your teammates." That's a good point. I mean, the top, and he said the best teams already know this, which is true. I don't know though. Like, I don't know. I'm not familiar with all the teams and the roster changes they make, so I don't know what teams are making those kind of decisions. But I feel like for the most part, like people are going for like some of the better options. I mean, some people view like players differently. Like there's sometimes where I've seen people pick a player up and I'm like, they probably could have got this guy instead. But that's just like down to
Yeah.
how you view the game and what you think your team needs. So I can't really argue that. Like to each their own, right? Anyways, and then Nate replied to him and like just Nate said he was spewing shit basically.
Yeah, I saw that one.
And then Hyena tweeted, where is it?
For those
Did
of
he
you that
delete it? He might have deleted it.
no, he said something like for those of you that spewed shit.
Oh, he actually deleted it. It's not here.
Are you
Oh, wait.
sure?
No, here it is. Okay.
It's gonna
Players
say
who want to run their mouths. I couldn't see it. Players who want to run their mouths. Remember, you guys have orgs that will and have fronted money for whatever player you wanted. Not everyone PL has an org like that. Remember who you qualified for PL with. Would you have been as successful without star player buyouts? Shut the fuck up. And then obviously I had a problem with that because I mean I disagree with it.
because you were a star player who got bought out.
Yeah, I guess so. But also just I was on one of those top teams and I don't think like on EG, we were never successful because we bought players out. Like
Right.
the only player we ever bought out was Geo. And honestly, like in terms of the big picture, we got worse with Geo.
I mean,
right?
you
Like,
tried. To be fair, you did try to buy out
No,
other
we-
players.
Yes, we did. We didn't get them.
Yeah, you did not. But
So
you tried.
So
The spirit was there.
Yes, but success cannot be like our success did not come from buyouts,
Right.
right? Like our most successful run was myself, Nate, Amar, Young, and BC, right?
Mhm.
That was our most successful 5, and that was our lineup when we were CTM, when we weren't paid. Like that
CTM
was
ready.
when, right? That's when you just played the game. Like we at the time on CTM, like I think we got paid. It was like $500 for a season. So it was like $500 for 3 months. Like, and
Yep.
I mean, that was fine.
You okay getting paid in G Fuel, by the way?
We got no G Fuel.
Good. You're probably better for it. G Fuel's garbage.
The main reason we actually joined CTM is because Exec and Smack were actually pretty big streamers in the game. We joined to build our brand basically because they would
Smack went to TSM
and it worked
for PUBG.
Yes,
He went to TSM for PUBG.
and
he
now
still,
he's the manager
he still stayed
of
on.
TSM R6.
Yeah.
I think, or Exec is, and Smack something else, but they work within TSM. But we joined them because they could offer like building our brand and stuff, and it actually worked out because, I mean, as you can see with George is fucking huge now. George, he'll even say it. When we were on CTM, he would stream all the time after scrims, and he would get the fucking Smack host, boost up the viewership, boost up the numbers. And I mean, the big thing with George is George was consistent. He just kept at it forever. Like,
Yeah.
I think since he joined CTM, he consistently streamed until now. Like, he's missed like fucking 2 days since or something.
I mean, when he got dropped from CTM, he streamed for like 2 months by like, I got benched. And it was like, even then George's growth has been really fascinating because I remember he would be on at the perfect time for me in Poland because we would wrap up NA Pro League. I'd come home. It would be probably like 6:30 in the morning because we'd start Pro League at 2 a.m., 1 a.m. depending on the time zone. So I'd come home at like 6:30 in the morning, which would be midnight or just after midnight, 12:30 technically on the East Coast. George would be the middle of his stream because he used to stream like 10 to 4. So I would sit up and I'd watch, and you know, this was obviously a mistake that has reduced my sanity over the course of years, but I would sit up and watch him for 3.5 hours. And it was like at the time, fall 2017, I really wish it still said King George sucks, but I had to change it because this is more important. But anyway, this is infinitely more important. He would only get like 800 to 1,000 viewers. You know, I remember he would start to pick up when everybody else would be offline. and it would be like 2:30 to 3 a.m. his time, right before the morning EU crew would come on. He would be pretty much the only person streaming Rainbow Six at that time, other than that Z Rhino Games kid who you bought it out his fucking dick. But like, for people who didn't know Z Rhino Games, that story is so fucking funny. Pojo's digest clip where he messaged like hundreds of people in his chat just saying like, "Are you a real person?" and all of them were bots. But no, George would be the only person streaming. Like literally the next person on the board would be like some random like 60 viewer Andy that nobody'd ever heard of that was only getting views because they weren't George, but they were also streaming at the same time. And George would be peaking at like 800 to 1,000. And now George sits somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000. So even his growth has been huge since then. The whole game is really blown up, but no, the Hyena thing is funny because I don't know much about LG. I have a soft spot for them because they're a Canadian / Toronto based org, just as Reciprocity was. I will say that I've heard terrible stories about them from other esports, both COD and CSGO. Having friends in those industries have both told me just how dreadful dealing with them was. And I mean, I'm not going to name them because I know the chat will name them. But I mean, we've had orgs that have come into Rainbow Six that frankly, I don't ever want coming back into our community again because they were shit. They were absolutely fucking garbage, you know, and maybe they're fine in other games. I was willing to give LG a shot and they seem to care about their team quite a bit. But then as time went on, I started hearing stories about how, you know, the team, the funny thing is, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I have players from LG being like, we've never met anybody on the team. They don't really answer our emails. Like we don't like, we get paid okay, but like they just kind of set us up in Vegas and then just like left us, you know, like, and you know, then the Hyena tweeted later on in that thread, like we had to use our own money to buy out Slash, which is never a sign of a supportive org, by the way. If your org is not willing to help you buy out a player, that means that either the org thinks that you're not worth the money or they don't have the money. That's just how it works. Right. And then people be like, oh, well, Penta had to buy out, you know, Kanto Raketti. And it's like, yeah. And the G2 roster fucking hated Penta and wanted to leave for years, but couldn't. Like that.
It
that just
depends what the buyout is though, too.
Also true.
Also actually, true. I don't even know if I can. I'm not going to disclose anything because I don't even know if I'm allowed to.
I know I've heard
when there's high buyouts,
like, I've had like 70 grand buyouts. So I get it. It's a lot of money.
With high buyouts, I can understand like players having to chip in like a bit. Like take a pay cut for a couple months or whatever to be able to buy a player out. I can understand that because it makes sense. But I don't know what Slash's buyout was.
Yeah, I don't.
But I also saw in this. This isn't even to say that it was good on LG's end, but apparently, like the way Hyena said, it probably wasn't the best. Apparently, it was only Factor that took the pay cut.
Yeah, that's what I saw in the thread as well. Factor's like, I'm the only one that actually took a pay cut.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I remember super tweeting at them at the height of the drama being like, Factor, why are you defending these guys so much? They've already told all of us they want to drop you. And I was just like, why is this stuff getting spilled in public? I was like, come on.
That's Seth.
But it's like, I've heard, I know that there have been players that have been bought out for 50K. The highest I've heard is 70K, which a lot of people in chat are like, what the fuck? It's like CSGO players buyouts are like 300K plus.
Yeah.
Like that's nothing. You know, league players are bought out for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like,
yeah.
And people don't get that. And they're like, 70G is so much money. And it's like, well, maybe, but not in other esports. It's not, you know, people are saying what's a buyout for? It's so you can buy the contract off an org. Let's say somebody wants Pengu off of G2. If Space Station is like, our IGL is old, he's got the worst gun in the game, we're thinking about upgrading. SSG drives up to the G2 headquarters in Berlin and backs up a dump truck full of money and says, here's 600,000 euros, give us Pengu, then you have to buy his contract. He can't just go wherever he wants, right?
Yeah.
But the thing with LG was that it's funny because Hyena releases that twit longer. And this was information that I am now comfortable making public. But at the time, in the midst of it, I didn't want to drag anybody in. And I didn't want the players who were still allowed to live in Vegas at the time, which is why I didn't say anything. because LG was like, oh, we're going to let our players live in Vegas so graciously until we solve this. And it's like, at best, you're spending a couple $1,000s for 1 extra month of rent. Fuck off. You know, like, you're not actually being that nice. It's nothing in the grand scheme of things. Anyway, Hyena releases his twit longer, and I answered back being like, it sounds like LG shoulders a lot of this blame. And then the CEO of LG responds to me directly refuting what Hyena had said publicly, which is that they were told last minute, and that the CEO of LG was like, oh no, we let them know right away. And I'm like, if you let them know right away, why were they informed of this by another team that already knew ahead of time in a scrim that then prompted your players to come to you and say, wait, are we getting kicked out of Pro League? What the fuck? And the funny thing is that while their CEO is like in my mentions being like, that's false, we told them right away, one of the LG players DM'd me and was like, yeah, this tweet's a lie. I could screen cap that and post it. So like, and it's like, at the time, I'm not going to go public with this stuff because I don't want the players getting in trouble, because it doesn't matter. And I don't want the players being like imperiled, because I bet you anything, in order to agree to stay in the team house for an extended period of time and still have their salary got paid, they probably had a clause that was added in some contract somewhere that is a non-defamation clause. You can't slander your former employer. This is very common. A lot of times when you get a golden handshake and you get money to fuck off from a company, they put in there that you can't defame your former employer for X amount of years.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that that's probably in there somewhere.
Yep.
I would bet you your bottom dollar. So obviously having a player slide into my DMs and being like, hey, this is actually a lie, I'm not going to risk your player's safety. Now we're past that point, and I'm never going to say which player it was, but at the end of the day, like, don't come in and lie in my DMs and make me look like a fucking idiot when I've got, at that point, I had 3 of the 5 LG players at some point over the previous month or two openly shit talk LG's handling of the process, but you never saw it publicly. And it really pissed me off. It really pissed me off, because it's like, you'll say these things in private that you hate your org to a certain extent, but then you won't say it publicly. Instead, you're going to shit on Ubisoft, who, like I said, I think Ubisoft made some mistakes as well in the initial onset of all this. But like, be fair, right? Like, and it bothered me. It irritated me, because it's like, I don't care if Ubisoft is to blame or Ubisoft is perfect. I don't care if LG is perfect or LG is to blame. What I care about is that the proper story gets out. And that players who didn't deserve to get shit on got shit on. And then I love that people also said to me, they're like, oh, it's very clear you don't care about the players. It's like, remind me who was on the team at that time in LG. What player in particular that I would care about was on LG at the time that was losing his spot? Jarvis? And you're saying I don't care? You're saying I don't care that like one of my closest friends is now losing his job and possible livelihood? Go away. Go away. But the Hyena thing, why do you think he's coming and blasting everybody? What do you think I
mean, I think it's just he feels like he can say something now because he doesn't care, right? Yeah. Like, he's not gonna. I think he's just embracing the fact like he's not gonna come back and play Siege, probably.
Well, he got banned.
I mean, yeah, exactly. He got banned, so that helps it. So yeah, just doesn't care anymore and just gonna let it rip. And I mean, it is entertaining.
It made my fucking night.
Yeah, it's entertaining. So he's gonna say what a lot of people think but don't say.
Yeah.
Kind of like Seth. Like, that's why Seth is so entertaining. Obviously there's other parts of Seth as well, but
if he doesn't delete the tweets.
Yes.
Keep him up.
That's why he throws
Seth.
it out there.
Keep him up, Seth.
But yeah, just basically I think he just doesn't give a shit anymore and just wants to let it rip. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he says. Like, there's a lot of stuff he says where like he's saying that like a lot of people are thinking that they don't, but like I disagree. Like the like Butters, Drip, and Rexon being better than 40% of Pro League is not fucking true.
Yeah, I think that's the Butters thing in particular was interesting because I like Butters a lot. I don't know much about him. I think as a caster, I focus more on stories than stats. You might be the opposite, where you probably care more about how they perform in game and you really don't give a shit to a certain extent, like at what their story is, right? But Butters goes from getting kicked out of his house, and like every gamer knows somebody who wants to game and gets kicked out of their house or threatened to get kicked out of their house for playing video games. Like it happens. There's still stigma around it. And I want to say to those of you that are impressionable in chat, for some of you, do your fucking schoolwork and stop playing video games. Okay. And I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. But if you are somebody who is quite as talented at a game as Butters is, if you're a gold 2 and you're like, but mom, I'm going to go pro. No, you're not. Do your fucking AP calculus work. Stop playing video games. Anyway. For Butters, I thought his story was great. You know, he was homeless. He was living on a couch. He makes pro league. You can't get much of a better story than that. But I mean, his stats spoke for themselves in the second half of the season. They picked up Mark to come in for Sloppy, and then Butters' stats were poor. They weren't good. And he was playing like what, Zofia and Jaeger? And he was just, he was doing awful. Like, you can't, like, what's your defense of not dropping somebody when that happens? Like, unless there's some massive issue with team chemistry, why wouldn't you move somebody off of that role?
Yeah. I don't think he's necessarily bad either, though, but like that's such a stretch. Better than 40% of pro league, like
no. Yeah.
No.
Like no.
Yeah.
Maybe better than the bottom 10%, sure.
Yeah. Maybe.
You know,
I can't like think of it, like I can't quantify it all in my head.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it's I mean, he's good enough to be in pro league, I think. But
Butters, I agree.
it's there's a lot of players that aren't in pro league that are good enough to be in it, and I don't think trying to think of players in pro league.
I'm going to throw a name out here, by the way,
pro
of
league.
somebody. Sorry?
Pardon me?
I said I was going to throw a name out here of somebody I think is good enough. I think Wimpy is good enough for pro league.
I think he's up there.
I think
there's
Wimpy's good enough.
There's a lot of players like that, though. Like Wimpy's one that comes to mind. The ones he mentioned, like Rexon, 100% is good enough to be in pro league. I actually think all of that LG team. I mean, I think the old EG team. I mean, I think they're taking a break right now, but I think they come back. They're good enough to be in pro league. Like, I think there's a ton of players because, like, at the end of the day, like, it's not like players are like way significantly better when it's like fighting for that kind of spot. It's just a matter of who fits better.
Especially if they're a fragger, because a lot of times they need to bring something else other than just being a fragger, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so it's a matter of who fits better in the team. But like, yeah, all those players are good enough to be in pro league, and I think everyone in pro league is good enough. Like, I don't think I've seen someone like that. I mean, it's happened in the past. It's definitely happened in the past. But yeah, I don't think there's players like that really.
I think both you and I could probably name over the last couple seasons in North America more than any other region, because in Europe, I think the automatic culling of talent in Europe is the language barrier. There's a lot of average players that their team implodes and they don't speak another language, so they're fucked, right?
Yeah.
But I think in NA, I'm friends with them. I'm not going to name any of them. There's probably about 5 or 6 people that played that might still be in USD, maybe not, just to try and throw people off the scent. But I can name like 4 or 5 people who very much overstayed their welcome and only got spots because of who they were or who they are or who they know. And very easily could be replaced by, what were the names that was listed? It was like Wimpy, Anthony MGS, like Kylo, like Kilo, Sippin, yeah, like Sippin on OJ. Like
all those guys that were on OB, like Lags, J90, or J90.
Yeah, I think Lags and J90 could come in for sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that we have to realize that we were also looking at it, you know, maybe a 10-team league. And if there were 10 teams in NA to match EU, we wouldn't really be having this conversation right now, right? Because there would have likely been a lot of new blood that came in.
Yeah. I think like the guys on PogChamp too, all them, they're good enough. Like it's just a matter of what fits.
That team is half journeyman though.
Yes.
Trippin, Ghost, and Jarvis, those would be your journeymen that Hyena was slagging off on.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is the first time in a long, long period of time, I will say, that I think that NA has a lot of good up and coming talent. It was bleak a couple seasons back. Like when Elephant Gang was like the indisputed best team of NACL, it was slim pickings after that. Like the other 7 teams, like, well, I mean, I guess DG was around at the same time, but then even then DG was like a big question mark. We didn't really understand what's going on with that squad because it was like on paper they should have been fine, but then they just, for whatever reason, they never made it. That was the old like Yeti, Gotcha, Mo, Spades squad, Reed, I think, way back in the day. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Hyena banter, do you think it's good or bad for the scene?
I mean, it's entertaining. I don't know if I could even say it's bad though. Like, I mean, I guess it depends how people perceive it. Like that, and that's kind of why I responded to like what he was saying, because it felt like he was like discrediting top teams. He's like, well, top teams, like the way it could kind of come off, and I'm exaggerating here. Like, I mean, completely exaggerating what he said, but like it could come off as like top teams are only at the top because they can afford to buy out players, which is not fucking true at all. Right?
They're like the fucking Yankees. They just buy their team.
Exactly. Like the argument I made to it is like all these teams that can't afford to buy players and have bought players were good before they bought any fucking players. They were the best teams in NA before they bought any players.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think if that's been the same in all regions, but like that's how it works.
I mean, if you look at Europe historically, Empire didn't buy players. G2 at the onset didn't buy players. Yep. Like they got Shate and then they, you know, that was it. And then they got Uno, I suppose. Like Rogue didn't really actively buy players. Like you're talking about like assembling super teams, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at assembled super
it's
teams.
Happening now, but like those teams are already good beforehand or like earn their place at the top beforehand. And like that's how they get there. Like, and that's the argument I was making with him. And like, I do agree. Like, it sucks. So, like, for example, is like United, honestly, they didn't fucking show anything to like get the support. They're getting like really good support. Like, they fucking moved Alfama in. They got the lad pad or whatever the fuck for them to live in. Now they're getting a house. Like, they're paid well. Like, they get good support. United treats them well. Like, it seems like it. I don't know behind the scenes stuff.
I've heard United's a good org, by the way. Like I've heard that they treat their players well.
No,
and like the COD
team,
the COD team had a lot of good things to say.
Yeah. So like, it seems like they're treated really well. And I will say, United, the actual roster, I'm gonna be honest, and I feel like if they're being real with themselves, they didn't do anything to like deserve better treatment than like the LG guys did. Right? Yeah. Both of them were just new to Pro League. Both of them.
And the LG squad has been better, and it's still probably better.
Fortunately, Hyena and the boys, they got a fucking shitty org in comparison. It sucks. That's life. Like, it is what it is. But, like, at the top teams, the reason the top teams have these good orgs and have their orgs, like, willing to buy players out is because they're proving that they're worth investing in.
Yeah. I also think a lot of it comes down to marketability.
That as well, yeah.
Like, you know, you're one of the most marketable. You might be getting past now that you've taken a bit of a step back, but I don't think that's the case. I still think people will they'll turn out to watch you and your content. Mm-hmm. You're one of the most marketable people. You know, you've got Bosco, who is also quietly, for different reasons, marketable to a certain extent. You know, and then the rest of the team that you've got, they might not be huge in terms of content creation, but they speak for themselves in regards to playing. TSM is a no fucking brainer. They got Bolo, you know, like... Duh. You know, DZ doesn't necessarily, like, I think probably Skies is their most marketable star, but even Skies went from being like a big part of the scene to he's also kind of retreated from social media and he's streaming less. But DZ is doing a full team approach where they're putting out amazing content. And a lot of credit needs to go to DZ for this. They're pumping out content with all their players. OXG, you've got Foxay and Laxing, two of like probably the biggest known names in North America. Like, and those are your top 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So the big orgs with money will put money into content creation for that reason, and will put money into teams because they know that you've got a big name.
Yep.
I think TSM is a a great way of looking at it, and it's very clear that United is trying really hard to create content around that lad pad. You know, Yeti and Alfama they're trying to put out a ton of content with Yeti and Alfama. And now that I think Forest has moved in with them as well.
Well, they moved out to Vegas now.
Yeah, they're in Vegas. Are Callout and Grixer there as well?
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
hadn't
think Call Out
seen
is.
that they are.
I saw I think a picture with Call Out, so I think Call Out is. But it's not the Lad Pad anymore. I think they called it like the fucking Lad Cast. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something. They
Some
upgraded.
funny name. Apparently
upgraded.
Callout is there as well. But Grixer is not yet. Brave on them for traveling, especially to Vegas in these circumstances. But I mean, unless you're leaving like Texas or Florida, then I mean, it's probably a step up. But no, and I mean, I think that orgs will gravitate towards that. You know, Goddess touched on it. A big draw of why C9 picked them up was her. You know, orgs will invest in marketable stars because, frankly, across every esport, there are a tiny number of people that are worth building content around. And players need to take it upon themselves to be marketable. You need to prove to your fans and to esports orgs, etc., that you are worth interviewing. You know, there's a lot of people that will never come on this show because they're boring. They don't have anything to offer, right? And it's like, I hate to say it, but they won't go on any podcast because they're not going to be getting asked because they don't add anything of value.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks to say, but there's lots of people like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if every team has like a big star, it'll make getting picked up by a big org easier. You know, you think an org's going to pass on a team that has Bolo on it? Are you crazy? No, of course not.
They that's the easiest way to see. Like, we can make this work. We can make money off this. We can get viewers. We can like get numbers off of this. Like, that's really all it is. So you need marketable players, and then also, or the alternative is being consistently really fucking good and proving that through results. And
but I feel like
you'll that's the thing. If you're really good, you naturally become marketable.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The thing is, it's a lot harder to be consistently the absolute fucking best. It is.
Yeah. But it's like
it's a lot easier said than done. Like, oh, we'll just win.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're constantly one of the top teams, you're going to be on camera so much that you're going to have no choice.
Yeah.
But to somebody on that team, whether it's a coach, whether it's you, whether it's a manager, somebody on that team is going to become marketable.
Yep.
And it's like, you can show it off. And that's the thing. Like, if TSM wants to sell merch and Bolo retweets it, how many more hundreds of people are going to buy that merch now that wouldn't before?
Yep.
And that's hundreds, could be thousands. Bolo has 140,000 Twitter followers and like 1 million subs on YouTube. And he pulls higher viewership than basically anybody except for Pengu when he streams. Like, the man is just a content king. And it's like, all you need is Bolo vouching for one thing. And you've got hundreds to thousands of impressionable fans that are now taking his word as gospel and are asking their parents for their credit cards or are dumping money themselves into these things. It's a win-win situation. And people don't really get like the economics behind it, especially when you realize that 99% of esports orgs lose money. They never turn a profit. They're loss leaders, part of a bigger portfolio, usually a bigger business where they know they're going to lose money, but they're there for a reason. And that's for advertising, marketing, to draw an audience, etc. So, though I will say this, I will give praise to both E-United and Tempo Storm. They both seem like they're pretty good orgs. Tempo Storm's content online, by the way, A+. Really like that they've been going to bat for political issues recently. And E-United just seems to be treating the teams well. Yep. Not to mention the fact that the Sonics and DG have been the same. So,
they have been.
With that said, now that we're talking about good orgs, that can get us off of this topic. We can go to questions now. Because there's a lot of them, and I also realize it's 5:20. We'll do like 20, 30 minutes of questions. We can do quick answers, by the way.
Okay.
There's a lot of them. It's called questions for us.
Bro. Holy fuck.
Yeah, a lot of questions. People want to ask us a lot of things.
Oh my goodness.
There's hundreds of them.
It keeps going. All right, we're at the top now. Finally. Wow.
There's a lot of questions about like, what do you think of the meta? What do you think of maps? What do you think about this team? What do you think about that team? In future, not that I think that they're bad questions. I don't want to sound snooty. But if it's a question like that, there's a good chance that we'll probably touch on it at some point over the course of a show. And it also won't be as relevant anymore. You know, like if you say, what do you think of DG's performance? And that's all you say. We don't know what week you're talking about. So specificity is king. Also, I love when somebody will ask a question and then it will be answered. Like somebody in here says, "What's better, smokes or stuns?" and somebody just answers it with smokes. Okay, well, we don't need to answer that question. Good. That one's done. Have you found anything, by the way? I'm still
A
scrolling.
question? Oh, I mean, I see one that keeps popping up that I know everyone wants to hear the answer to. It's
Blast it.
Why is my door so tall and narrow?
So you can fit the hammer through it.
And I don't fucking know. Like, okay, well, that's a good one. I saw that command in the chat.
Yeah, that's the command in the chat. Why is it? It's the bathroom door.
I don't. It's the bathroom door. It's a sliding door to the bathroom. Fultz and I share a bathroom, so the bathroom's on the other side of the door. Fultz is on the other side of the bathroom, right there. Yeah. But
that's Fultz's room on the other side.
Yeah,
he just slide open the door and it's a small little area. It just keeps Fultz in there. He starves him so that on match day, Fultz has to fight for his food.
I have no idea why it's like that, though. I also have no idea why the walls are red.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the back wall is gray. You can see there. And the walls beside me here are gray. Some interesting design choices here. The house is nice, but like some of the colors, I question.
I will say this: when we knew we were gambling on Vegas, Kix and I, we started looking at houses because I wanted to try and get a drop on the market before we moved. Because originally I was supposed to move to Vegas in May. End of May, like right after the Sao Paulo finals, I was going to move. Obviously, the world had a different idea. So that's on hold for now until whenever the land league opens up / I can get a visa. I will say this. Every single house I looked at in Vegas had the most hideous interior decoration I think I've ever seen. There was not a single nice looking house. I think there was like, I looked at probably hundreds of houses. And every single one, the interior was just like weird angles that made no fucking sense. Colors that just defied logic and made your eyes bleed. Weird furniture choices. Like there'd be like a random fireplace in a hallway. And you're like, why is this here? There's like, for what reason? None of the houses had like air conditioning. They all had like localized air or whatever. And I was looking at it and I was like, dude, this is a freak show. I'm going to need to look harder because all of these look like I'm living in the 70s.
There were some weird ones. I mean, like, we like the house, but like, I remember when I first saw the pictures, I was like, but why is it red?
Yeah.
Like, that was the main question. I was just like, why is everything red?
Yeah, I don't.
And then I walked in and I found out that it was gray and red, which is even weirder. But
yeah,
I think downstairs you don't notice it as much, but like this room, like you notice it. Thankfully, I just sleep here usually and do the podcast. That's about it.
I mean, in a perfect world, that's what you're using a bedroom for.
Yeah, I know, but some people sit in their rooms a lot more, right?
Yeah.
Like if I was gaming in my room, like I don't use this setup to practice on. I use the one downstairs. So
right.
Like, the only time I'm on this computer, usually, sometimes I'm on the outside of it, but almost always it's just for the podcast, and that's it. So yeah, it doesn't bother me as much. If I was here every day though, like especially because if I was gaming too, I wouldn't have the same light I have right now. I wouldn't have all the windows open all the time. Sometimes it'd be dark in here, bro. If I just like was in the dark with this red and gray, nah, wouldn't be a fan.
You become a Satanist.
Yeah, maybe.
I remember when you sent me like the file of your house, like the rental profile or whatever, and I was looking at the layout, and the one bathroom was like blood red as well, and it had like a live, love, laugh sign above the toilet, and I was just like, nah, I'm done. I can't.
That's our bathroom.
Dude, I'd live, love, laugh my way out of that fucking house. Like, no chance. Like,
that
I could
sign's
not.
gone. That sign's gone. But
well, that's a relief.
That's our bathroom.
I could not.
That's our bathroom.
Here's a good one, actually, from Modger Roar, obviously a 007 fan. Says, Siege GG just put out the stats for Iana and Oryx. Why is Iana seen so little play? She seems to have a decent kit. Explosives for the current meta and essentially a recharging drone as a gadget, which allows her 2 drones for flanks. This can offset the attack-defense information imbalance. And then additionally, I'm also going to ask you why do you think Oryx sees little play? But I mean, that answer is going to be pretty self-evident.
So Iana, I think, again, this is like back to the point you made about secondary utility. So she brings nades and smokes, right?
That's strong.
As far as smoke ops go, no, it is strong. As far as smoke ops go, I mean, Capitao is probably like the best, most consistent smoke operator. Next up's like Jackal. And Jackal's like map dependent because some maps, you get nothing out of it. He has a nasty gun though, so like you can always bring him. But Cap's like probably the best one, most consistently. But sometimes like a lot of the time he's banned, or with Wamai up, it makes it a bit more difficult. But Cap's really good because he can bring flashes as well. And then as far as nades go, when you're bringing nades, it's either usually going to be on Mav or on Sledge, because you're going to need to bring top down, or it's just if you already bring a Mav, then he's your nades. Like if you need, because sometimes you just need to bring Mav, right? And then at that point, it's like, okay, he's our nades, and you have to bring flashes around it. Sometimes you bring nades with it, but it depends. But really, it's just she's map dependent. She is very strong though. Like, I think probably the map that she's played the most on there is probably going to be Coastline. Like that's the map I see her the most on. I see tons of teams use her on Coastline. And I think that's no secret. I think any team that's playing right now knows that. Teams use her on Coastline, and that's because you have the most flexibility with your lineup. So she's a great operator. It's just sometimes it's hard to fit her in, and that's just due to the current meta where you need to have certain utility and certain just to be able to clear things. With less top down, you could probably bring her more as the nades, and I think some maps you can definitely bring her as the smokes. I've seen it on some other maps, but then there's some maps where it's not worth it. Like Capitao is just better as your smokes, or you can't bring smokes because you gotta deal with other stuff. But she's good. It honestly, I think it might even like continue to rise her pick rate as more and more teams like find good uses for her. Because you need to find a good consistent use for her. But she's great. I think she's good. I think she's in a good spot. I think that pick rate might rise.
You think that part of why you see her on Coastline is because you have that absent hardbreacher role?
Yes.
You've got an extra spot, right, on Coastline, so.
Yeah.
This is a side note. What do you think of Coastline not needing a hardbreacher? Would you like to see more map reworks that are like that, or?
Here's the thing. It's weird. I get frustrated how Coastline plays out, but that's just because, I don't know. I don't know if we fix the current defender meta, if all maps will feel like the way Coastline feels, but like the way Coastline feels is it feels very hard to defend.
Right.
You feel just kind of fucked defense, honestly. Like you just need to like get aggressive, or like just like stop their entry, something to slow down the attackers and like just fuck with their game plan, basically. And I think part of the reason why for that is because you don't need to bring a hardbreacher, so you can bring all these combination operators, and you have so many more explosives, so many more flashes. And also a big part of it is that since top down is so prevalent on it, you don't need to clear things as much, right? So like, for example, like if they have a bunch of ADSs and magnets and a shield stacked in kitchen, you just go in VIP. Doesn't fucking matter, right? That's not the case on every other map. Every other map, right? Like a lot of the times that shield will be in a spot where you can't breach above it. And now what do? Like, I think the only spot that you can't breach above on that map is like the kitchen, hallway, and security. Like office, fully breachable. Blue bar, red bar, lobby, pet house, like it's all breachable. So those spots aren't protected, and because of that, like you can get around the utility more. So I like maybe it's like I'm just kind of realizing this now because now all these thoughts are playing out in my head. So you're making me come to a realization, but I think it's probably a mix of the verticality and then also the free hardbreacher. So maybe I'd like to experience another map where you free up the hardbreacher, but then it would have to mess with the verticality. But then now I'm thinking about it, like if you don't have all that verticality, you would probably need to bring a hardbreacher.
It would be kind of nice to not have a mandatory hardbreacher, and then I mean you can bring that. What was it, that leaked gadget, the can opener thing or whatever it is that's been floating around, the image of like the thing you place that's kind of like a breaching charge in it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about leaks here, by the way, because I don't care. And I can also tell you that I don't know about any upcoming content. So everything I know I have acquired through leaks, as I have not playtested anything.
I don't think I know anything further. Yeah.
I've gotten to the point now where I don't know any upcoming content, period. And all I can go off are like the leak videos. So,
yep.
There's like a leaked secondary gadget that came out that's like they put down like this gadget and it's kind of like a small thermite charge and it opens like a little area in. Okay. I would like to see more maps where there aren't hard breachers. Like I mean, that was, from what I understand, that was kind of the thinking behind Tower, was like a map like Tower, Buck is too strong. Soft destruction is it's too strong. What do? Get rid of all of it. Most of the floors on Tower, they're not breachable. And there's only like 2 hatches on that entire map. There's 0 vertical play on Tower. You basically have to attack the map head on, like the site head on. And I think that's kind of cool. And in a way, I would like to see that where, you know, like that would also make other operators less effective. Like on a map like Tower, if Tower was competitively viable, let's say. Like
if it was, you'd be running a hardbreacher on. I'm telling you right now.
No,
Maybe
I know
that was
you'd be
their
running a
intention
hardbreacher
with
on
it,
it. I'm
but
just saying that
I'm thinking about all the sites. It's good.
There's no vertical play on Tower though. You don't have to worry about getting destroyed from below. You don't have to worry about getting destroyed from above. Everything is super linear, but you have to worry about how much like outside room there is. Like obviously Tower's a shit map, and it's not, I'm not saying throw it in, you know, the US division. I'm saying that like I like that the thought process behind it is that it was different. Yeah. And it'd be cool to kind of see more like that, but I mean, I know a lot of people would disagree.
It's hard to do. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like having like trying to make like a unique, like styled map.
Yeah.
But to do it right and like make it competitively viable, it's hard to do. Like I don't even know how to do it. I couldn't tell you.
I mean, we're not map designers. We just know what is fun and isn't fun to play. Like Skyscraper is not fun to play. Yeah. But you have a question. We can go through these questions kind of quickly because I know there's a lot of them.
I did not pick another one, bro. I'm bad at this.
We should have picked them ahead of time, to be fair.
Yes.
Okay, here's a quick one. After this year is done and Chalet and Skyscraper reworked, what's the next map buff / rework that you'd like to see?
After which ones? Sorry.
After Skyscraper and Chalet are done, because they're the 2 that they've already announced.
Oh yeah.
If you could name the 4. Let's say we don't get a new map. Let's say that it's 4 reworks next year. What do you want to see? You don't even need to name 4. You can just name a couple.
Border's like the obvious one, I think.
Right.
Because it just got taken out. Consulate. I would like changes to Consulate. Small changes to Bank, but not much. Like I think I'd want like more significant changes to like Consulate and Border. Whereas like Bank, I think like small changes like to do with the main lobby and maybe like the garage.
Downstairs and garage would be great. Yeah.
Like small changes with Bank, and then I think like actual reworks with like Consulate and Border, I would say.
I align with those 3 perfectly. Bank, Consulate, Border for me are the no-brainers. They're the only maps right now, and I like Bank. I like Bank a lot. I actually liked casting every site on Bank except for the basement, and that's because the basement plays out exactly the same every time. Once server control has been taken care of, it's just like the same song over and over and over again. I threw a wrench in there and I said Bartlett because I'd like to see, I think stylistically it's a nice looking map. I don't think Bartlett will ever get touched because the optics of reworking a university to be in like a terrorist simulation have changed so wildly in the last year, let alone the last 2 years.
This is true.
I would be amazed. It's like why people are like, oh, make a Vegas map. And it's like Vegas had the largest mass shooting in the history of America. You really think they're going to make a map based on it? No, that ship has sailed. It will never happen. So like people need to kind of like come to terms with that and think critically about why it will never happen. I appreciate that you might want it to happen. It's never going to happen. I think the same with Bartlett. I like Bartlett aesthetically. I like Bartlett. I think it's a nice looking map. I think it plays dreadfully poor. And it's a Reddit map, right? Reddit kept complaining until they're like, make it a map. And then finally Ubisoft was like, fine. And then Reddit enjoyed it for like 2 months. And they're like, oh, this map's shit. It's like, well, imagine that, you know, like, if we're picking a map that isn't in, I'd probably say Yacht would be cool. And I don't think Yacht is that unplayable. I think if you shrink the map and you change it a little bit, I think Yacht becomes playable. So,
yeah.
And it's also cool because Yacht is very little vertical play as well. So if we want to keep on that thinking of tower where it's like you don't have to worry about a buck or a sledge making your life above or below you an utter nightmare, yacht's a good proving ground for it. See if it works.
Mm-hmm.
I am worried though, because like Canal, I don't know. I would like to see a season of Canal in ranked or in pro league, quote unquote. Throw it and bank back in there, move the map pool up to 9 and just see what fucking chaos unfolds. But I know the teams would probably say no. So
Yeah. I don't know how I'd feel about that.
yeah, well, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Should be done for funsies.
I don't know about funsies.
Okay.
I don't believe in pro league funsies.
No fun allowed. That's why you run Clash.
Yes. I have a lot of playing Clash though.
Oh.
I do like my evil, like maniacal laugh while I play Clash. The other day in scrims, like I was just cracking up playing Clash on a map, just dying laughing, just like this guy's fucked, like he can't move. You're fucked. You're dead.
Has anybody told you that you're an awful person for enjoying that?
Possibly.
Yeah. All right. You have the next question?
Yeah. This one, I guess it was targeted for me. He asked me if I had the chance to be the coach for SSG for whatever reason, would I take it?
Lycan's off the bench. He's playing now. You're the coach.
It's something we joke about, but I wouldn't take that probably. I don't know. Like I think if that ever happened, well, like first of all, for me to move into coaching, like I'd have to know like I'm not playing the game anymore. Like I'd have to be confident that I should not be playing the game anymore. So for that to happen, I mean, I don't see that happening too soon. I don't feel that bad at the game. As far as being a coach for SSG though, I think like it would depend on like how things ended, I guess. Like if I would just like we went out, we kept playing, and I'm like, all right, I'm done after this. And then I want to continue coaching and I join the team as a coach, sure, but like that's like a very picture perfect world. Like it might not happen like that. Like who's to fucking know, right? Like there could be changes at any point. Like I mean, I didn't think I was going to leave EG, but like sometimes things go to shit. It happens, and then you gotta figure out what you're going to do. Whether
that's why you stream, right? There's your pivot.
This is true. There's other things I would rather pivot into, and that's kind of why I don't do the streaming as much. Like, and like why I focus more on like the Twitter side of it. There's other parts of like the industry and the game that I'd rather pivot into.
Right.
Just for me personally. But yeah, I mean, I think if it went picture perfect, then like, I mean, I like the guys on the team, so I would want to like keep helping them win. But I think also at some point I would want to be like a head coach, and that's like I wouldn't be like Lycan's got to go then because Lycan's a great fucking coach. Like that'd be ridiculous for me to say. I think I'd want to start like my own project or something at some point. Like that's something I could definitely see me doing. And I honestly think I will probably end up doing after I play is like coaching or like helping build a new team.
I want to steal you for casting talent, so go through your coaching phase quickly.
I know.
Get that out of your system.
We'll see.
Come make good money and shout on a mic like you already do.
But like Luke said, yeah, not coaching shit anytime soon. I'm nasty.
Sure you are.
I am.
If you don't take advantage of that and make merch to some capacity, like SSG, we're nasty, he's nasty, blah, 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 like...
We got to get the nasty merch, huh?
Missed opportunity. Here's a good one, though, from O Grievous. Says, right now the Canada division is looked down upon and, quite frankly, insulted by most people, which to an extent I can understand from an outside view. By the way, O Grievous is the head coach for Nordic Esports, which is in the Canada division right now, who won their match, by the way. They play against Mirage next week, I think. I can't remember exactly what the scheduling. Anyway, which to an extent I can understand from an outside view, but I feel like that's because we haven't showcased ourselves against the best teams and are instead stuck in our sub-region. The biggest thing I've noticed is we don't have much of a voice, and because of that, we are often an afterthought right now. Have you guys thought about bringing on some Canada Division talent, maybe one per team, similar to the coaches episode, to discuss the new scene? On the Friday night games, it's quite jarring to watch because you guys don't know the teams or understand the dynamics as much as the US division. I suggest considering reaching out to the teams and players and bring the division to life. And then makes a joke at the end being like, you might know how to pronounce their names, because we didn't know how to pronounce. To be fair, this was, and I'm not throwing production under the bus, but this is a production issue. I was pronouncing that one guy's name Coffee, and then Kix was like, production told us that it was Kohi. So we started saying Kohi, and then it turns out it was Coffee, and I was right.
No.
I was right all along. So I can answer this first. Anytime a new region happens, they're always going to be looked down upon. No way to fix that. APAC is still looked down upon. LATAM, to a certain extent, is still looked down upon. They have been in the scene for years. You're going to be looked down upon until you prove that you don't deserve to be looked down upon. And I think that was the biggest thing, was when FaZe started putting up good results, Black Dragon started to play really, really well, and Liquid won the whole damn thing. That's when the main chatter about LATAM being bad ended. APAC is still looked down upon by most people, because I think a lot of people would say that, with the exception of Fnatic and Norarengo, the rest of the region hasn't seen a ton of success, and they're outliers.
Yep.
That's it. Canada division will continue to be looked down upon, just as the rest of the South American divisions are going to be looked down upon, / Latin America divisions are going to be looked down upon, just as ANZ is now going to be looked down upon, because they're new. That's it. Nobody knows anything about them. Nobody knows anything really about the players. Nobody knows anything about the teams. I will tell you this, that there is obviously a skill drop off in Canada division right now, just from watching it and casting it. There are a lot of times where it's like, I can see and understand the thought process behind a lot of USD teams. Nordic is a team where I see a thought process, and Mirage as well. Altiora kind of, Livid, not really, if I remember correctly. And it's just like, you're adapting to pro play. Some of these players have never played at this level. I have casted a lot of Canada League. I've casted every season of Canadian Nationals, at least one episode. I've done production stuff for Northern Arena and Squad State for Canada Division and for Waveform as well. I think I'm pretty well versed in the region. I don't think the issues are necessarily that you're stuck in your sub-region. Mirage is scrimming against pro teams. I know this. I'm friends with Flynn. I talked to him. I'm assuming Nordic is as well. Until you start winning and until you start playing, you're not going to get out of that we're looked down upon. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like, you've got to prove that you don't deserve to be insulted. I mean, obviously being insulted is not great, but it's like, if you're playing poorly, you're going to continue to get dumped on for playing poorly. Just as E United and Tempo Storm get shit on for being in the lower portion of NA, or USD, you're going to see the same thing with the Canada division, right? And I don't know what your thoughts are on it, having watched it, if you even watched it. But if you've kept an eye on it, I'm interested what your thoughts are.
I've watched little bits. We usually practice during it, so haven't really watched much. Watched like little bits here and there.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I don't remember like the team. Like, the only team I know like really well is Mirage, because we've scrimmed them and I know people on the team as well.
Yeah.
So like, that's the only one I'm gonna like consistently remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I haven't watched it a ton. But like, from the little I've seen, like, I mean, it doesn't look horrible, but yeah, like, it's not like they're proving that they're fucking nasty at the game or something, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, it's gonna come with time. Like, eventually, you're gonna get better. You're gonna keep playing the game. You're gonna get better. You're gonna scrim against, maybe even, like, at first you're gonna have to scrim against like probably North America, like the U.S. Challenger League teams.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the best place to start, because I'm going to be honest, a lot of the U.S. Pro League teams aren't going to take the scrims. They might take some here and there, but pretty rarely. Like, you're not going to get consistent practice with them. And I think you play against Challenger League teams, you keep getting better, and then eventually, like, I mean, you'll make a name for yourself. People will notice you, whether it's the player or the team or whatever, and I think you'll start to scrim. Like, USC Pro League teams will eventually scrim against more Canadian teams. They will. It's going to happen. They're going to get better. And I mean, we always need like more practice partners or better practice partners. Like, you're never going to say, oh, there's too many people to fucking scrim. Like, that's never going to be a problem. So yeah, I think just got to keep playing. Like, it is what it is. Like you said, every new region is going to start out like that. Like, you're going to be looked down upon. You just got to prove otherwise. It's going to take a while, but yeah.
I would love to have Flynn on here. I'd have no problem with that. He would probably be the first person I'd bring on. because I think he has a very unique perspective playing on Mirage, but also as a caster, I think, you know, he's familiarized with a lot of these players too, and I think he'd be able to have a good conversation. And I know the chat would probably quite like that as well, since Flynn has basically become a recluse. But I mean, the thing is right now, Canada Division and US Division are, in terms of tiers, they are both tier 1 leagues, but the caliber of play from the US Division to the Canada Division is obviously not consistent, and that's fine. You can say the same thing between like literally the US Division and like fucking APAC, or EU versus NA, or LATAM versus APAC, or whatever. Like, every region is going to rank themselves differently, and I think it's not about like not knowing or understanding. Like, I don't think the Canada Division is going to have some like wildly different meta. They're going to be scrimming US teams. They're going to be playing US Challenger League teams. They're going to be playing Canada Challenger League teams. It's not like they're going to try to reinvent the wheel. It's just that they've got to get up to speed first, and that's it. And a lot of, honestly, what boils down to Canada Division and why we cast it the way we do is we cast it a bit lighter because we don't want to be critical. If we casted it with the same stakes that we cast the US Division, people would call us assholes because of the amount of mistakes that are being made. So we cast it lighter, like it's more relaxed. Kix and I have a good time with it. We drop criticisms where we think are fair and valid, but we don't hold a brand new division of professional play to the same standards, just as you don't compare Ace and Dez to Kix and myself. We are not comparing Canada Division to the US Division for that particular reason. And we understand that when you have a newer league, you try to handle it with kid gloves because you don't want to seem mean-spirited. You don't want to seem like you're being too critical, and you don't want to seem like you're being too mean and rude to players who are still learning the ropes. A lot of these players have never competed at this level before. Most of them haven't. So you can't pretend that they have or try to compare them to players that have.
Yeah.
You have a question?
I read one. I do think we should wrap up soon because I'm gonna have practice soon. I think
I gotta go in like 10 minutes. So
I gotta eat.
Yeah.
Okay. One that I think will be fun to answer though is, I mean, it's more just for me to answer. Maybe I can ask you a different version of it. But
okay.
Sherman just asked who/was the most frustrating player to play against.
I was literally going to ask that one as well.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you who you think it would be, I guess. You can say that first if you want, and then I'll give you my answer.
Okay. Is it in all of Pro League or is it in your division? Narrow it down for me.
I don't even know if I don't have a most frustrating one anymore.
Okay.
I used to have one and it was in NA. As far as, but like I have a different one, I guess. But it's not like as frustrating. It's
I mean,
kind of,
okay, so
there's a bit of story behind it. But anyways, the original most frustrating player for me was in NA.
Okay, so I mean, I have seen everybody talk about how frustrating it is playing against Thinking Nade, but he's your teammate now.
He actually used to be up there, but yeah, he's my teammate now. He's annoying.
Yeah,
he's always on the fucking roof.
Yeah, I saw how he's just like in the worst places at all the time, and he's just a great flank watch and all that jazz. Right. Most frustrating to play against?
You're not going to guess mine. Mine was like very unique, I'm going to say, but
very unique.
I just guess in general, like who most people would think would be annoying. You said Thinking Nade.
I mean, if I'm looking in a general sense, back when they were together, I would say that it's a joint effort, but like Skies and Laxing, I think would have been really fucking annoying to play against.
Yeah, a lot of people do say Lax, and Seth said that in chat. I don't find him like too annoying to play against because I feel like he's still done well. Like, I'm not saying like I shut him down or something, but I've always been aware of like how Lax plays. Sometimes it's funny and you're like surprised by it a bit, but like for the most part, especially in matches, I'm very aware. I don't think I've been like caught off guard by it in a match where like he did something. I'm like, wait, what? What happened? Like, usually it's like, oh yeah, that's fucking Lax, or like I'm kind of ready for it.
So who is it?
But for me, it was always Hot and Cold.
Matthew.
Like, that used to, and my old teammates on EG will attest to this, but it's kind of like gone away. I don't know what happened. Maybe they changed how they played the game. Maybe I fucking grew up and stopped getting as annoyed by players or something. But I used to get so annoyed playing against him. He would kill me all the fucking time, and I felt like he killed me in dumb ways. So maybe he changed as a player. Maybe he's a smarter player now. I don't know. I don't think that's it though. Like he would just smoke me. I'd get fucking mad.
Thought it was gonna be like Hyper Yaga the Brick Brain duo.
No. But as far as so like one that I can think of though outside of that is Nesk, and I've only played against him once, and it was at OGA Pit, and our team always jokes about it because like there was I don't know if you're familiar with it. We played them on Bank. It was the last map we played against them at OGA Pit, and oh my fucking god, he ate us alive, bro. Like that's never happened to me where an individual player took over a map to that extent. I'm telling you,
Was it NJR levels?
But okay, so like NJR went nuclear with like in terms of the numbers, but I'm telling you, like there was like a feeling on the map. There was a feeling in this match where it was just like if Ness was there, you were gonna die. Like that was it. Like NJR, like he was fragging out, but like we still thought like it still felt like you could peek him, you could kill him. Like I'm telling you, I've never felt like this before. I just if we knew Ness was there, it was like fuck, like
stay away.
We're gonna die. And there was one round, like he had like 15 kills in 4 rounds or something, like something insane. And there was like this one round, and we were playing Bank, and I noticed that he had been holding main stairs with Sophia, like he was like the main stairs flank hold. We're defending basement, by the way. I noticed that. So then like the next round, I'm like, all right, like this is what we're gonna do because we didn't defend their execute well at all. And I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. We reinforced like the teller's wall. And I was like, all right, I'm going to pulse us on main. We're going to send bodies up main. We're going to fucking triple team this guy. We're going to kill Nesk. Like that's how we're going to win this round. I'm fucking pulsing Rampy and Nate up main and just 1, 2, they both get smoked. And I'm like, oh fuck, man. All of a sudden, I think Bosco died to something else. It's like me and Fultz. I'm in like, Bosco might've been alive. I don't remember. Anyways, the round keeps going on. They open the vault hatch or the elevator hatch, and I'm in the vault pulsing, like every pulse does. In the back of my mind, I know I'm like, my teammates call the hatches open, and I'm like, I know that if a motherfucker is dropping that hatch, it's Nesk because he's the one holding the main stairs. He's the closest one to rotate to that hatch. So if someone drops, I know it's Nesk that's going to be dropping. And I'm telling Rampy and Nate, I'm like watch the E1 cam. E1 is just that elevator on that first floor or the bottom floor.
Right.
And I was like, watch E1 cam, like let me know if he drops. And they scream dropping vault. And I'm just thinking in the back of my head, I have the fucking UMP, bro. I'm just thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, I have to fight Nesk in a one-on-one with the fucking UMP to keep our hopes alive in this round. Like I just knew this fight was coming. I actually won the fight. And I was like, let's fucking go, boys. We're in it. We're in it. And then I went to throw a fucking C4 to deny the plant, and some fucking like graphics card overlay pops up on my screen, and I just freeze in the middle of the fucking red hall, and we lose the round. It was devastating. Devastating.
Would you say that you were old as shit and had the worst gun in the game, yet you outdueled Nesk?
Yeah.
Is that where it began?
That was part of it.
Is that where you
like
planted the seeds of the UMP love? Is that?
Yes, bro.
You got that kill on Nesk, and you're like, fuck, I'm nasty on this thing. I'm bringing this everywhere.
No, it's just the fact that I have to use it all the time.
Playing up
but
against.
It's just like, dude, that whole thought process in the back of the mind, like the whole round in the back of my mind was like, how do we kill Nesk? Like that's all I was thinking about. And then there was another round. It was I think it was the very last round of the game. Like there wasn't much we could do on that map. That was one of the maps where it was tough. They were the better team on the map. They were better than us at Bank, and Nesk was on point. It is what it is. That happens sometimes. Those are the easier losses to take. Like I've had other losses where it's like you made a mistake. Like it didn't feel like we made a fuck ton of mistakes there. Like we were making the right plays, but the guy was hitting his shots.
Yeah.
And they knew how to play the map well. But then anyways, there was like the last round they were defending CEO, and we were doing a front lobby take. And we are just setting up to go like up the spiral stairs. And we had like a flank drone and tellers. And Nade's like on the flank drone. He's like, all right, Valk is teller's door, like, or couch door is what we call it. It's the left teller's door if you're in the lobby, the one on the left, not behind the desk.
Got it.
And he's like, all right, Valk's couch door, left side. She's just holding there like freebie, right? And Nade's like, I'm gonna go kill her. I'm gonna go kill her, right? Nate gets off the cam. He goes to fucking pre-fire her, and I just hear like 2 bullets in the MPX. Bink! Headshot. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going for, like, at the same time that Nade was going for it, it's like, I'm going to go for the trade. Same thing happens to me. I did not stand a chance. Just the cleanest headshots ever. I was just like, and me and Nade after we were just like, it was a freebie. Like, Nade had the freebie and I should have had the trade, but like, it just didn't matter. He was genetically superior. Like, what could we do? So yeah, that map was an experience, bro. I've never felt that on a map. Never. Up until that point.
Jesus.
Neska's a different breed, bro. He is. I'll give it to him.
Man, I remember watching Nesk when I was in the audience. I was staying next to Silence, and at the time, Silence was, I think he was with FaZe. I don't think he was with Liquid at the time, but it was Liquid versus Penta in the finals of Atlantic City, and I was in the crowd because Milos and Emzo were casting the finals. And I was standing with Silence, and then I later ended up joining up with the Brazilian guys, and of course at the time I was actively cheering for Liquid, which don't tell the Team Liquid fans who don't like me, by the way. I was actively cheering for Liquid because I really like Liquid, and Zig for a long period of time. Zig and Sexy Cake were like two of my favorite players. Obviously Sexy Cake still is, but obviously Zig's retired now.
Yeah.
It meant a lot to me because when they won, I went up and I gave a big hug to Zig, and he actually gave me the jersey that he was wearing, like literally right off his back, and I still have it, and that's the Liquid jersey I have to this day, and it meant the fucking world to me. I do wish I'd been casting that, for the record. I really wanted to cast. I was, and that's why I hate to say it, but I was cheering for Nip against you guys at SI because I want to cast LATAM winning. You know I like
Too
you.
bad.
You know I like
Too
it. Too bad.
Too bad.
Too fucking bad. We won.
Yeah.
But I was standing there with Silence and I was just watching it, and it was like just watching Nesk when he's on, man. When Nesk is on, it's just like he was playing Ying, and they were running PSK, I think was on Lion, and they were running Nesk on Ying. And I just remember there was one consulate take where it's like they ran a Lion and everybody was Lion. They were defending, Penta was defending Garage, and Nesk was solo. And Nesk literally just, they hit a Lion like right off the rip. He's already in Visa, marching down Visa stairs. He's in fucking break room. There's like 25 seconds into the round. They hit like the second Lion, and Nesk has all the Candelas out and everybody's dead. He killed like 3 or 4 people from the back. And the round was over in like 50 seconds. And I was just like, what do you do?
No,
What the fuck do you do at that point? Like,
he's one where it's like, if he's on, good luck. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, the thing is, though, is like, he's not gonna, like, no one's ever gonna be on like that consistently. So it's not something you can rely on. But like, it's scary to have that kind of star power. That kind of star power is rare.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people will talk about like the star fraggers, and like I've played against a lot of them. I have never experienced a map like that where like it was just like we lost that map because like he would hit shots that we couldn't, like there was nothing you could do about it. Like I was like holding a pixel one time on like I was like in open area, bro, and I was holding like a pixel through the open area door to the elevators, like a tiny pixel, and he literally like no drone or anything, just turned the corner, smoked me, and I was like, the fuck do you do? Like. And like that's on land too, where Peeker's advantage is not as insane, and just instantly fried me off of it. And I was like, all right, like he didn't pre-fire nothing.
It was
just sometimes there's people like that. There's not many players like that though. There aren't.
There was I think it was an interview. I'm pretty sure it was with Lycan. I could be wrong, but I'm 99% certain it was with Lycan. And there was one game where like a team won or something like that, and Lycan just put it so bluntly, he just goes, sometimes there's just a player that is not going to lose.
Yep.
And that's it. And there are times where it's like a player just wakes up or has a game where you're not beating them.
Yep.
We have to get one hockey reference in. I guess I got the Don Cherry one in earlier, but it's like, it brings to mind like Jonathan Quick for the Kings in that one playoff run back in like, what was it, like 2010 or 2009 or something like that. And then Tuukka Rask with Boston as well. Nobody was fucking beating them. They were not letting in goals. Like you could not score on them, period. And it's like,
that's one thing I love about hockey. And that's the thing, you like to win a championship in hockey, like usually you need a really good goalie.
Yep.
That's the thing. Like good teams can like, they can be good without a good goalie.
Yeah.
But like, you can't win the cup like without a good goalie. Usually.
Yeah.
There's been some cases, But like, yeah, just
I mean, the Hawks
sometimes like
won
at the end of the
won
day
with
to
Anthony
win,
Niemi, so
yeah. At the end of the day, to win, you need to score. And like, if that motherfucker, like, sometimes that motherfucker just says no. Like,
yeah.
they just stop every shot, and you're just like, oh fuck,
What do we do?
guess we're not winning.
Yeah. You get one goal and you're like, that's it for the game. That's it for the game. We can't let them
Yep.
even score one. We're not getting another.
Yep.
All right. There's a lot of questions here. So maybe we'll do like a question and answer video at one point where we do nothing but answer questions.
I'm cool with that too.
This is a good one that I think to end off on, because I think this one is general and it doesn't just appeal to people who are competitive players. There are players like me who have solo queued for the last 2,300 hours. Also, much respect to go through that.
Damn.
It's not
Impressive.
It's not a solo queue friendly game. What do you think about players like me? I already quit, but I still love Siege. I'll let you go in general. Let's start in general.
I mean, that's impressive. What do I think? I mean, I don't know. You got some mental fortitude on you, bro.
That might be the toughest human I've ever met.
That's tough, dude. Like
2,300 hours of solo queue.
I'm curious to know.
You're not coming
though,
out
like,
the other side of that, okay?
I'm curious to know, like, I mean, obviously he quit. I'm curious to know why he quit, because, like, honestly, like, if you can solo queue that much, also did it say his rank in there?
No, that's all he said.
Okay, I mean,
I'm
that's
checking to
still
see if he
bold, but,
posted
like,
a follow-up question.
at some point, like, that guy, you got to try playing with a team, bro. Like, because
Came
if you're
from
doing
Tandem
it for that
Hassan, by the
long,
way.
like, your mental fortitude, man, like that can transition well.
Yeah.
You might do good in competitive Siege. I mean, also though, like, the thing is, you could. I'm not trying to like bash this guy, but like, you could solo queue for that long and like just not be good at all.
Yeah.
And then like, obviously then there's no point in trying competitive, but like, I don't know, man, like that's impressive. I could not do I mean, I don't know many people that could do that. That's tough.
I think I'm pretty close to that. And most of the time I solo queue. I solo queue because I don't play this game off stream that much. So if I'm playing Rainbow Six, I'm almost assuredly streaming. And right now I'm at, I haven't even played it recently. I'm at 1,926 hours. And obviously not all of that is solo queued, and a bunch of that is also being in-game casting. So that's something to remember. But solo queuing is really challenging, and the region matters a lot as well. If you're solo queuing in a region where they speak lots of different languages, infinitely worse than solo queuing in NA. And you think NA is bad solo queuing, go to Europe. I've heard similar things from people in Asia. It's just like, imagine solo queuing, but you literally can't talk to your teammates, even if you want to.
That's tough.
You're trying to pull off, you're trying to coordinate, you're trying to pull off a plant, etc. Like, good fucking luck. There were days where it's like I'd solo queue in Europe and I'd be like, if I'm not a caster, if I'm not a streamer, I probably would never play this game again.
I can't do solo queue because, like, the thing is when I solo queue, I want to win more. Like, than when if I 5-stack with my team, I don't care if we lose as much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, like, losing isn't fun in ranked. Like, it'll usually like kill my mood, whatever. But like in solo queue, like, I'll actually almost get upset losing. Because like I want to win, and like I don't know. Like, my competitive side carries over. Luke knows about this. I think he's in the chat. Luke knows about this because this season, what happened to me? Oh my god, ranked fucking pissed me off this season. I mean, because of the current state of it, I like played my placements late. But anyways, like the other day, like a week ago or something, I like finished my play. Like, I was finishing my placements. I was playing with like Kev, Bosco, Fultz, and I think Iconic.
It's a nasty stack.
It was a good stack. We were winning.
The king stack.
Well, we were winning. Anyways, we're queuing up. We're playing ranked, and then I got placed plat 3. I kept playing with him. It was all good. And then we played a cheater, and then we lost. My elo drops. Play another cheater. My elo drops. Now my elo is too low to queue with any of my fucking teammates. So now I'm stuck fucking solo queuing, bro. And we were before scrims the other day. I queued up a solo queue match, and the guys in, like, we're all just sitting in Discord chilling before scrims. and I just started getting mad. They heard the mouse slam, like I was getting mad because we were getting slammed. We're playing Cafe. I think I went nuclear the first round. We won the first round.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest, man. The squad was just dying. This one round, bro, on defense, I ran around the map. We were defending kitchen on Cafe. I was running around the whole map, bro. I killed like 7 drones. Like I just kept getting droned. I kept killing them. My whole team was in sight, and just one by one, they're dying in sight. I'm like, they don't even have fucking drones. How are you all dying? Like I was losing it, man. And then the next game, though, my team was nasty. Like you don't know. Solo queue's tough. I was trying to like call out, coordinate a bit, but like it's
It's
that's
hard.
the thing too, though. It's like when I try to like IGL remotely, then I get more invested, and then I get more frustrated, and that's bad.
I remember I was playing my promotion game. I've been plat every season, which is fine. Usually somewhere between plat 3 and plat 2, and I've always done it solo queued. And it's like I remember I was playing on Clubhouse, and I'm like, okay, cool. It's my promotion game to plat. I've had a rough season. I think I placed like gold 2 or gold 3 because it's like you have like 1 or 2 bad placements, and that's it. It's done. I'm on Clubhouse, and we're defending upstairs. I'm like, okay, cool. Like pretty good map. As long as you're decently structured, you're fine. Like I know how to play it comfortably enough where I'm not going to be like, it's not like Chalet or Outback where I'm insta tilted. And it's just like, Foxay's calling you out for having scrims, by the way. He's like, we have scrims.
We do not have scrims against them.
Yeah, did you see Foxay's thirst video, by the way, where he was spitting?
I did not.
Don't watch it.
Good.
I mean, actually, you should watch it.
No.
But okay, so, and we're playing on Clubhouse, and it's just like, I can't remember who I was, but somebody double reinforced the wall from catwalk, like rafters in garage in. And I was like, who reinforced this? Like, we need to rotate here. And they're like, no, so they won't come through garage. And I'm like, how am I playing at gold 1, plat 3 levels? And somebody said that to me out loud. No, it's so they can't come through garage.
Well, he's not technically.
We got fucking annihilated, by the way, because they literally marched 2 people into garage and we couldn't hold it. And then they just jumped through the window and killed us. And it was like, whoever was playing
At least
red,
they didn't go through the wall, though.
You know,
at least they didn't go through the wall. If you had a frost mat, maybe,
I guess technically it was to protect us from garage, and I guess it protected us. I just
solo queue stuff, man.
Was this on stream? Somebody asked. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was on stream. And I was just like, I don't get it. And I said, like, with all due respect, like this is a default rotation so that you can hold rafters and waste their time. And the guy's just like, oh, I don't know what default means in this game since there's so many strats. And I was like, well, default means that it's the main one.
Well, so actually, if you want to hold garage, I will say, if you want to hold garage and the other team is attacking through garage, it is better, in my opinion, to fully reinforce it off.
Right, but we didn't know where they were coming from. It was round 1.
I know. Yeah, no, I know. I'm playing devil's advocate, right. And I'm informing the people. Okay,
inform the people.
If people come from garage, it is better because then they can't see you from the server wall as well. They have to. They can only look through the window because otherwise they can look through the rotate hole, and you can't move as much.
I would also like to point out that they didn't put a rotate at red. And that because the reinforcement went on the garage wall, we weren't able to reinforce the exterior wall to construction either.
Damn.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main reason for the rotate hole is for if a team comes from construction side with it, then from rafters you can watch cash.
Right.
And it's like a power position. But yeah, I don't know.
But that was not the case.
No, it was not.
Yeah, it did not. Anyway, I was like, I didn't understand it. And it's just like, I remember I made a call out once. I was in plat at this time in NA, and I made a call out and the guy's like, I don't know where that is. And I was like, it's literally on the map. Like, how are you playing this game in ranked and you don't know where? Like, I wasn't even like a weird call. Like, I didn't call like Africa and border or something like that. Or I didn't call like Zed or like 90 where they're like, the fuck does that mean? It was like literally the same call out that it was on the map. And they're like, I don't know where that is. I was like, how do you not know where that is? You're playing ranked. Somebody
that one happens to me sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
So
that's just because I only know my team's call outs.
That's fair. So
sometimes I hop on a map and I hear like maintenance and I'm like, where?
the literal call out for that spot on theme park.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said,
Can't
what do you think
relate.
of players like me? I think that you shouldn't be solo queuing. I think that you should be trying to play with a team because it's a better experience. I think that you're brave and you're strong to spend 2,300 hours playing solo queue. And I also get this. Like, I play a lot of games. Like, I play them competitively, but I also realize that I'm solo queued and it's like I'm not the angriest if I lose. Where it's like I'll queue into, I don't really care what my rank is, right? So like I'll queue into a game solo queued and ranked, and if my teammates are super toxic, after like 2 or 3 rounds, if they're like awful people or like they clearly don't know or whatever, I'm still gonna try, but like I'm gonna try like maybe not like 110%. Maybe I'm gonna try like 90% because it's very clear like we're probably gonna lose.
Yeah.
I don't give up and I don't throw, but it's like I set my own internal expectations accordingly where I'm like, yeah, this is probably a lost cause at this point. Like I'm resigned to the fact it's like, whatever, you know, mentally, I'm not going to ruin my day, my night, on to the next one after this. No problem. I think the greater problem is that because this game is so weird in its matchmaking, you can get in Europe, you can have a 5 stack of French players, none of whom speak English. And you can get the guy who's a support who 5 queues with them the whole time. They get diamond, but he doesn't speak any English and he's not a good player, but because he's in a 5 stack and he's playing support and he's droning for his teammates, he's doing fine. He now goes to solo queue as a diamond, but on his own, he's maybe like a gold 3. That totally fucking annihilates the matchmaking. And I've had matches in Europe where it's like I'll queue in and nobody on my team speaks English. None. I don't hear a single mic other than some other language that's like, I don't know, like let's say Italian or Russian or German or something like that. They'll make a call out in that language. Nobody will respond to it. And that's the only talking I'll hear, and we'll lose 0-4. And we'll just get pummeled. And it's like we're playing against fucking pro league players. And it's like, you need to be able to take that into account, which is why I think we need 2 systems. We need a team queue and we need a solo queue, period. And that needs to be implemented tomorrow. So, you know, whenever, but we need a solo queue system so that you have a separate rank, because when I'm playing with George and he does probably boost my stats and then I go play solo queue and I'm higher than I should be, I shouldn't be fucking over my teammates.
Yeah, I agree.
We need a solo queue and we need a team queue. 100%.
I agree. I will. The only problem is I don't know, like at higher ranks, I don't know if there's enough people to do that.
Yes, I'm worried about that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, especially at night. Especially at night. And I don't know what the solution is. A lot of people will say, yeah, I'll wait 10 minutes for a match, but it's like the player base probably won't. Like a streamer or somebody who's well known in the scene may, but a random person who's just really good at the game will probably go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. But
It's quite the predicament. But yeah, I commend his mental fortitude, his strength.
There's a lot of strength there.
All that.
And I would just like to
I would recommend playing with a team though. Just experience it more. Like
this game is so much better even playing with 1 or 2 people.
And you'll like it more. Yeah. Like
night and day. Honestly, just being able to playing as Thatcher, being able to coordinate with a Thermite, playing as Valk or Echo or Maestro, being able to coordinate, etc., etc., etc. I think goes a long way. And I will leave us, speaking of George, with this great copy pasta from my good friend Zumi that says, I frequently play with a guy that always complains about his deaths and never takes responsibility for how he died. He constantly blames me even though he streams and gets stream sniped every game according to him. He used to be a world champ, but he's old now. His name is George. Should I stop playing with him?
That's a good copy pasta.
That's a good copy pasta. I hope he just made it up on the spot, but I have a feeling he probably didn't.
I really like that one.
We also have to wish somebody a happy birthday, by the way, because I will never ever do this in the future, so don't ask, but somebody very nicely reached out to me last night who I have spoken with before on Instagram, whose name is Latrell Pena, or Penna, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and said, hey, would it be too much to ask for a happy birthday on the podcast today? No, not at all. Latrell Pena or Latrell Pena, depending on how you pronounce that, or Penna, happy birthday. We get a happy birthday. Happy birthday in the chat.
Happy birthday in the chat, boys.
Happy birthday in the chat. But that's it. Do you have anything else pressing that you want to talk about, or are we going for dinner now? And you have to go to scrims eventually.
I gotta eat. And
for you, it's
practice and all that.
3:15. You've still got the day. For me, it's 6:15.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's bright. I see by my fucking pale ass face on the camera now.
You look great.
Yeah.
You're as white as Kickstar.
It makes it bad, man. If you guys don't know, I had some camera difficulties. I couldn't use the camera I used, so I tried to use a different one. I mean, it was like, okay, normally I use a Brio. I couldn't use the normal Brio I used today because of prior commitments and stuff. So I tried a different one and it wasn't detecting, so now I'm using a different one and just didn't go well. So
I use a Brio and it works just fine. But I will say this, when we do rehearsals and they do light, I feel so badly for FACEIT because they do light check, and because my room is a window, because I don't live in a dungeon, my room is a window. And because of that, I don't have blackout curtains, so some light comes in around the blinds, which makes me lighter. But then when we do rehearsal, we do light checks. We do light checks at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then we go live at 6, and the match can go till 9 by the time the sun has gone down. So the light just gradually changes, and I look totally different at the end of the broadcast than I do at the start. So, anyway, with that said, thank you everybody for watching. Greatly appreciate this. Our 7th episode. This was just a nice free-flowing conversation where we talked about a bunch of stuff. As always, thank you to everybody for clipping this on the subreddit. That's super cool that you all do that you share those clips around, and the support obviously on social media and in the comment sections has been awesome. The coaches episode was really well received. Hopefully you enjoyed it. In the Discord, you've all been asking us lots of questions. Please don't stop doing that. Continue pumping them in there and we'll get to them. Let's do a Q&A episode, yeah? Where we just ask questions for like 2 hours.
I'm down with it.
I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
We'll end up rambling off of them, so yeah.
Yeah, some of them are really good questions, and I think we could spend some time. And we could do like a rapid fire round where it's like ahead of time I'll go through and I'll curate a couple questions where it's just like...
The quick ones. Yeah,
just quick ones. Like, who do you hate playing against in Pro League? Just like, here's the name, here's a short reason, move on. Like kind of deal.
My answer to that was pretty long, though.
Yeah, I know, but that's fine. That's okay. We'll have to have like a stop clock where we have like 60 seconds, like 20 seconds up here. But if you're watching it on YouTube, thank you for all the likes. The ratio has been great. Please leave a comment down below for future guests that you want to see. And we'll see how many people actually make it to the end because, well, now they're going to see. If you want a future guest, leave it down below. Who would you like to see and what topics would you like discussed? As always, likes, subscribes, retweets, favorites, follows, all that jazz. Greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for tuning into our 7th episode. The reception's been awesome. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.